Coffee and Cream with Andrew Rogers and Damon Benning on Hurrdat Sports Radio.
1-2 pitch. And he hits a deep drive to left field. Ozuna back to the wall. He has done it again. A 2-run home run and a magnificent jolt for Marcell Ozuna. 7-0 Braves.
Machado runs again. The 1-1 pitch hit in the air to deep center field. Chisholm's going back. He is at the wall, looking up, gonna go. 2-run homer, Xander Bogaerts. And the Padres get some much-needed add-on offense here in the 6th.
Here's the 2-2 pitch, and it is swung on and crushed. It is back. It is gone. Adam Duvall, a 3-run homer in extra innings. His 3rd of the series, and it's 7-4 Red Sox.
And here's the 1-0 to Judge. Swung on, hit in the air to center field. Back goes Thomas on the track at the wall. She is gone. It's a grand slam.
I would really encourage people to go to Huskers.com. We've got a dedicated icon on there with all of the information about Volleyball Day in Nebraska, all of the details, lots that are available, parking that's available. We have 50 buses that we've rented to help transport people from various locations. We're going to do everything that we can to make this special. And by the way, I've checked the weather, and knock on wood, it's not 110, at least according to weather.com.
Yeah.
So we think it's going to be a special night, and I'm grateful to UNO and Wayne State and Kearney for their participation. I think we're going to have a lot of fun.
Good morning, everybody. Coffee and Cream, DB, back in the seat. Andrew Rogers, happy to have you with us. We are live from the H&H Chevrolet stage at Hurrdat Sports Bar and Grill. Shane Schillerberg with us as well. Nick Kinnaman already chiming in. 7 days, DB. 7 days. GBR. The college football season kicks off for Nebraska. But, hey, it's good to see you in the 7 o'clock hour this week. I mean, you've been all over the place with high school practice.
Good to be seen. We just had to make a couple of adjustments. A lot of teams scrambling, trying to get ready for week 1 or 2, however you look at whatever you call last week. It's week 1 for some teams. It's week 1 this week for us.
Week 0.5 last week.
Yeah, I mean, it's whatever. But the Mother Nature, she typically has last laugh, so we just have to adjust.
Man,
pretty cool for administrators and school districts, man. They had to make some allowances. You can't just pull this off with athletics and not have to have some district support. So, I know there were some special times and situations that were allowed in OPS and District 66 and Millard and school districts across the metro. So, man, good on those folks for helping out. It's not easy for anybody.
How happy are you that tomorrow it's supposed to be in the 90s and not up there in the triple digits?
Yeah, well, I mean, we just want to play.
Was it ever a word that you guys would get pushed back at all?
No, I thought, we were a little worried about the Thursday games because we just wanted to stay on schedule. It's already been hard enough to get film, to not get film. We just wanted everybody on a level playing field so nobody would have to start behind the 8 ball, right? We just want to play football and all the other fall sports, they're trying to go. I mean, you see band out there. It's tough. It hadn't been easy on anybody.
You talk about district support. We also heard in the intro there from Trev Alberts and talking about just like overall support. It's not a one-man show. You need a lot of moving pieces to make something big work. And he mentioned Volleyball Day, which is actually coming up next Wednesday. Yeah. Can you believe that? It's before the first game of the year for Nebraska.
I know everybody's in a hurry to get to fall, and I get it, but you got to take a second and just figure out where the heck summer went. Right? We went from it was crazy. We were worried, droughts, we should save our lawns, let it go. Then we went through like swamp season where it rained
all the time.
And
our dogs come in with muddy paws.
Now it's like there's this heat wave. We still got a couple of days left in August. We're not to September. It's crazy. It's reason number 2,221 of why you seized the day.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people worry about next week and 3 months from now, but man, it goes fast. It goes really fast. So here today, gone tomorrow, kind of like the Admiral, Ted Carter. So I thought Trev was on a roll last night. I think he's told you everything that he needs to know. You know, Coach Rule called him a visionary the other day, that he enjoys working with him and how Trev's the key. And I think the last couple of 2-3 times Trev has been behind the mic, he's kind of giving you some inkling about getting out in front. First, it was conference expansion in the Big Ten, and he said history has been unkind to conferences that don't get on board. And again, you know, last night he talked about contraction and conferences, and we said this a month ago. I wasn't sure, right? And I really wasn't. But the more I'm kind of around this thing, remember when we talked about Oregon and Washington, and I said it's kind of short-sighted to just think about revenue splits and big pieces of the pie. I think conferences are playing the long game in terms of acquiring the best leagues possible. I believe that now more than ever.
You got some reassurance last night?
Well, I hear it. Like I'm listening to what he says with an open mind, and I think he's letting you know. And I know we joked about the EPL model and stuff like that, but I just think it has now more, with all the money we talk about, it is now morphed into college athletics where there are just no free rides. I mean, we talk about it in society. We talk about it, you know, with the economy. And they're just, you got to earn your keep. And
that's what he ended up saying too. Like, now it's time to win football games.
Yeah.
Like everything has been presented to us, you know, with flying colors, right? We've pushed past all of the stuff behind the scenes. Now we actually have to keep ourselves accountable on the field, because if we can't, that means they can just come back at us with, hey, you're really not pulling your weight. We may do something different with you.
Yeah, and I think, you know, it's I get what he's saying from that regard. Maybe I'm a little biased, but I think Nebraska's safe. I mean, they do have to win, but the brand is strong. You're still top 17, 18 in terms of viewerships for sports for your football program. So you're going to command dollars. I can't really, in my heart of hearts, see anybody getting kicked out of the Big Ten, but I do think the table is set, right? You're going to be one of the last remaining schools with new facilities. Most people are doing renovations, not total erections from scratch. So it's like you felt like you had your infrastructure from an administrative point intact. Now we'll see what happens with the role that Dr. Bennett can play in losing Ted Carter. I didn't get into the political game, but it's obviously something is disjointed there between either regents or governor, Ted Carter. Like, this was quick. And I think Ted Carter had a really, really good relationship with the university. I think Nebraska is in a critical spot because Ted Carter held the spot on the college football, the president's board. I mean, that's Nebraska's voice, their lone voice. So you
say it happened quick, right? Because it did. It kind of just, it was like, okay, he's leaving.
Seemingly,
right?
Yeah.
Right. But you don't think it actually happened quick, right? Like, this had to be like a process that Carter knew about for a while now. And he was just kind of waiting just for like the right time.
I don't know, right? Like sometimes people can push you over the edge. Sometimes everybody likes to have options, right? But sometimes you don't want to exercise them until you have to. And I don't know if he felt like he had to, but I don't know. I mean, it doesn't make sense, right? At 64, why would you say you're looking for a new challenge?
Well, he's a go-getter. He's an overachiever.
Sure.
So he's somebody that,
I mean, if you're super myopic, and I'm a little more skeptical here, but I don't know. Something, So and I'm not trying to convince you, but I'm saying, so on the surface, we're like lobbying, we're voting to talk about change of commands at the university.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, trust me, this was my biggest discrepancy.
And then 4 weeks later, we're out. Like
Trust me.
I don't know how long he thought about leaving. If you're gonna go through this chain of command type thing and get the votes for how you wanna foresee, and listen, maybe Nebraska's in trouble at admission. I don't know. I don't know enough.
Mm-hmm.
I just know, much like a lot of things, when I say this, it doesn't pass the smell test.
Yeah, I had a conversation with Ravi the other day over the phone, a little bit about the situation, and he's like, well, maybe like it just kind of, because it happened so quick. I'm trying to find my words here, the right words to use here, because it happened so quick and he wasn't situationally, this is hard to convey right now, because like I feel like I could be in a similar boat a little bit, just with stuff going on in my life behind the scenes right now, to where you kind of just don't know. And he was in that in between spot of like, okay, like something was brewing, and now you just kind of have to take it. I know it's like, it sounds super discreet to all of our listeners out there, but as I think about it a little bit more, you almost wonder if, behind the scenes, you just couldn't control anything until you actually had all the details, right? So he's going through the process of, all right, I'm here right now. I'm going to get this Board of Regents vote. I'm going to be the overseer of athletics, even though somebody had already put a birdie in my ear a while ago about something, and then it just became something later on. You know what I'm like trying to say, though?
Yeah, but I just so this one's this is just my personal thought. I just think there was so much momentum, right? The athletic department they've got their guy, their head coach. They got a really good media deal with Playfly. You're getting your infrastructure in place with the athletic department. You had established the protocol for your chain of command in terms of your president, the chancellor, your athletic director. We'd established the fact that, hey, listen, athletics is important. I understand it's the front door. It is the gateway to our university. We're going to treat this with some seriousness. People throw around AAU, the med center dollars,
not
research
basketball.
dollars. Not summer basketball. It just doesn't. If you said, hey, DB, what's going on? There was such admiration and levels of respect between Coach Rule, Trev, and Admiral Carter.
Yep.
I just don't think. I'm hard pressed, man.
Hey,
he's 64.
You don't have to convince me to be a skeptic,
and it's not.
I feel like I live life as a skeptic.
And Ted Carter he embodies loyalty. It had something just doesn't meet the eye.
Well, and it's a lot more money to go over to Ohio State.
I don't think it had one iota.
From a university standpoint, if I read the details right, Ohio State has more money to play with, and has a bigger student population, right?
Well, I mean,
those details, and I don't know how that factors into his decision making, because people call it a better job, but I don't know if I would ever say.
I don't know. He's going to lose his athletic director in a year.
Well, it's in the eye of the beholder, right? What's the better job to use?
Working with an athletic department that operates in the black.
Financially, the school may be better set up, but is that a better job in the eye of President Carter?
I don't know. He's
had to balance a lot in this job too, because he's played like peacemaker in a lot of situations. So maybe he just kind of was like, I just don't want to keep doing this anymore. I don't want to keep balancing the sides.
I can't see that being the case. I just can't. He doesn't strike me as that type of individual. And I mean, with the university systems and his relationship that he had with Trev and that mutual respect. I don't know. I listened to Trev pretty close, just kind of knowing his delivery cadence. I don't know. I'm not a conspiracy theorist. It just doesn't sit well. And maybe, listen, full disclosure, I'm super honest, right? Maybe what you're hearing is more disappointment on my end. And it's not, and it's disappointment that I felt like this was the first time since I can remember, since I left sports, since I left the university, that, I mean, I felt like this was a power team. I really did. I felt like it was in tremendous hands with.
He's going to be hard to replace.
And I mean, Dr. Bennett steps into an interesting situation with transition in the university, but now I'm just kind of focused in on, I like the pieces in the athletic department, right? I'm a big Trev guy. I love Doug Ewald. I like Dr. Ellis. I like some of the power brokers that are making decisions. And I think I got a little bit of a vote of confidence from Coach Rule, because he did the quick pivot. He's such a quick blinker. He's like, hey, I want to focus on my relationship with Trev. I'm very appreciative of Admiral Carter. He was a key cog in helping me get here. Because remember, you don't have the kind of background that Admiral Carter has. Play the role that you did in the acquisition of your coach. Because I have to believe that the negotiations going way back from Carolina and that took some work, and it took some stick-to-itness, and you had to go back and get it. Like, you need everybody on board there, and I just don't think you do that and have been planning some secret departure for months. It just doesn't, for me.
But I don't even know if it was a plan, though. Like, somebody could have just told him.
Yeah,
like that. So that's what I was saying.
Doesn't strike me as that type of person.
And I can't speak for him.
Yeah.
But
I don't know for sure. I'm telling you, I'm telling you, just based on, this is just my personal opinion.
I do have a question for you, though, and I'd want to know who you think would be a bigger loss if roles were reversed. Do you think Carter leaving or Trev leaving, setting that out there, would be a bigger loss? Would it be Trev?
Oh, 100%.
So that's kind of what I think too.
100%.
And so that's why I think even though Carter is leaving, the program would be in bigger shambles.
Yeah,
if Trev were to go.
I'm 100.
Athletics would be in more of a shamble because of that. But they still have to find the right person to pair back up with those two guys.
Yeah, and I think that's the way you have to look at it. Especially if you listen to Trev last night, he wasn't dismissive of the departure, but he didn't lament either. And I felt like that was kind of interesting. I'm like, okay, so maybe he was just disappointed. Maybe he didn't feel like Ted Carter was on the up and up, but he just didn't strike me as the type of guy that was like, oh, man. Like, he wasn't down in the daubers. He was like, and maybe it's just his personality. Like, he's a bootstraps kind of guy.
Mm-hmm.
So he's like, okay, hey, listen, we got to keep moving on. Now, if in fact it is a deal where, people feel like Ted Carter was not honest with his plans, then it makes it easier to move on. Because if you listen to Jim Pillen's comments, I felt like it was interesting. He said, and I listened to it it's audio, so I can't see his delivery.
Mm-hmm.
But he says, listen, he had garnered the trust of the Board of Regents, and but he was disappointed. So when he uses, and I'm not trying to make this a political deal, and I'm not picking sides. I have a very good relationship with Jim Pillen, and I have a ton of respect for Admiral Carter. But when Pillen used the word disappointed, that let me know that there are some missing pieces to the puzzle. because you're not going to go like he's barely talked to the public. You're not going to go out on the first time and in a while and use your level of and say disappointed and not think that something's amiss.
Right. I used to say all the time when my mom would say, I'm disappointed in you, that hurt more than her actually yelling at me.
Right.
So
I mean, so was he not up front? Was Admiral Carter not up front? I don't know. But I do know this. You asked me the question of who I have to pick. I'm obviously riding with Trev. And it's not our friendship. And it's a level.
No, I just think he's more influential to what we're trying to accomplish.
And I listened to what Coach Rule said about the departure. He focused on his relationship with the athletic department and Trev Alberts. He called him a visionary, which means Trev has been very proactive in terms of being out in front, because Trev's very good with his words, right? He said, remember what I just said a few weeks ago, he's like, history has not been kind to conferences that don't get out in front. So I mean, it's disjointed at best, but I'm not going to be one of those guys. I just don't know enough. I just absolutely don't know enough. I would be.
Does that eat at you too?
Yes, because if I didn't peg Admiral Carter right, I could get over it, I guess, because I don't know him like that. I just would be very disappointed. I hate to use disappointed, knowing his background. Right. That's why you just never know. You just never know.
And I'm sure we'll hear. Well, maybe we won't hear.
I don't think you'll hear much from Admiral Carter. I don't.
After how much time he spent here,
I know.
You don't think,
I just
you don't think he'd have the respect, because he's built on respect. He's
dude,
built on principle.
I just get weird vibes.
So Tom on YouTube says, what is the percent of the time Carter spent on athletics? Maybe 10%.
Is he talking about its direct the effect on athletics?
I would guess so.
Why? The number one question I would ask him is why, if you thought you were leaving, and I don't know if he did, I don't know how sudden this is or isn't. Why would you spend time getting the votes from the regents to establish the chain of command in the hierarchy? Doesn't that seem weird?
Probably. Okay.
You either got blindsided, or you're one of the more disingenuous people that maybe to assume that role.
Maybe he was like, I want a backup plan. Like if Ohio State doesn't work out, I want to keep things in order.
Yeah, that would be
so
tough.
If I don't want to go to Ohio State, I still have what I want in Nebraska.
I try not to be in my feels, and maybe you're right. Maybe you're right, man. It's interesting to say the least. And
the other way to look at this point from Tom, though, is I saw President Carter spend a lot of time with athletics.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, even when I was at UNO, he'd come to, I bet he went to 2 or 3 hockey games a year. Like he makes time for athletics.
Yeah.
So I don't know his overall time spent with athletics, I would say is more than 10%. But as for like how much time does he spend on it, like it's part of his job description, 10% is probably around right. I mean, well, with the Board of Regents decision, though, it would have been a lot more.
Yeah, I thought Trev that's a beautiful, I don't know. I'm a little biased, but I do listen to the words too. I thought he handled himself masterfully last night.
We'll take a short break.
The show will be back in 5 minutes. The show will be back in 4 minutes. The show will be back in 3 minutes. The show will be back in 2 minutes. The show will be back in 1 minute. The show will be back in 30 seconds. Coffee and Cream with Rogers and Benning on Hurrdat Sports Radio.
I live for those smiles on young men and young women's faces. I mean, that's why we do what we do, right? You're here to change their experience and to give them resources to allow them to really grow as an athlete and as a student. And it was pretty cool to have that unveiling. And so I first want to say thank you to our donors. I also want to say thank you. There's a lot of people working literally day and night on that project. And so all of our partners, Rainwood Development Corp, Houseman, everybody, our internal facilities folks that are, and the patience that Coach Rule and his staff are exemplifying by allowing us to get into those spaces that are finished. And so we really wanted to do it in a way that was not disruptive for football. We were able to get that done as camp broke. And now we'll keep working on this. And as I said previously, really hopeful that by the end of the calendar year, we can have it open for all the student athletes, the training table, athletic medicine, academic support, all that kind of stuff.
Welcome back, Coffee and Cream. DB Andrew Rogers, live from the H&H Chevrolet stage at Hurrdat Sports Bar and Grill. Happy to have you with us. We are on 590 ESPN Radio here in Omaha. We're live on Twitter, live on YouTube, the Hurrdat Sports YouTube page. You can get involved in the chat room there or give us a call on the Warhorse Casino phone line, 888-638-4876. DB Cody on Twitter asks, would Hank Bounds consider coming back?
I don't know, but man, I was a big Hank Bounds fan. It's all interesting.
Is that a Nebraska name or what? Hank Bounds.
It's just I remember I would always see him at practice, and I would ask him. Sometimes he would go to volleyball, and sometimes Hank would go to football, and I always asked him why he was so heavily involved, and he said, this is the highest form of competition. You're competing day to day at a high elite level. Why wouldn't I want to see what I can gather? You want to be competitive with admissions. You want to be competitive with teacher pay. You want to be competitive with your students' acumen on campus. He said, why not spend time around people that want to be competitive? It's just interesting.
Yeah, no wonder you like him.
I just remember, and it's like, I don't know, man. This is just a lot of these funny stories and it all boils down to competing, which is why I'm kind of able to dial in on what's going on in Lincoln, right? They're focused on the task at hand. Mm-hmm. Trev, it's growth, it's revenue, it's overseeing a project. Coach Rule, it's
rebuilding a football program.
Yeah, man, we got Minnesota on Thursday. It just those things they keep you dialed in. The weather sucks and can't get outside, and you got makeshift times, and the guys are tired, and it's like, hey, you know what? Listen, you got to figure it out. You play a team that's got a game under their belt on Friday night, and you better have your ass ready. So. That's just the way that it goes. You've been around me a long time now, and I think this is how I think, mm-hmm. and that's what I gravitate towards too.
Now, I'm going to go back to something like the way you think, right? And I'm going to take us back to, it was probably a month and a half ago. Maybe it was 2 months ago. I mean, as you said, the summer has flown by at this point, and we're in the heavy parts of summer. Not a lot going on. We're just kind of like thinking and reflecting, and you had said something that caught me by surprise, and I bet it caught the rest of the fan base by surprise too. You had said, watch out for Deshaun Singleton. Deshaun Singleton is going to emerge, and I was watching him. I was doing this, that, and the other. And so yesterday I just had to ask you, because you have such a tight connection with Coach Rule, and I didn't know if there was did he put a little birdie in your ear like, hey, this guy's going to be good, or was it actually you? So I'm going to ask you, was it you that found and made that assessment, or did Coach Rule give you a little bit of insight?
100%. I was speculating based on what I saw. Because I really,
because what we're hearing right now is not what was seen last year out of this man.
No, absolutely not. But to be honest, that was the catalyst for me to say what I said. Because, what group did I spend time watching? DBs, right? What group do I always spend time watching when I take him to practice?
Defense and DBs.
Defense and DBs. So I know the most about them because that's what I'm watching all the time.
I didn't even make the connection that you coach defense at Westside, so it's easy for you to just pick up on things.
So I'm just watching him move
until now.
Right, because it's early. It's not like they have teams yet. They don't have
That's
units.
why I said this was summer when you
made they don't have units yet, and so he just was moving different. He looked more. He was always kind of He is explosive, but he just looked more sudden, and he was aggressive, and he has a nice frame, and so I'm like, but you know what the real tip was? This is so me. It's not even funny. I watched who he talked with.
At practice?
During breaks. You know who his running mate was during breaks?
Maybe Quentin Newsom?
Quentin Newsom.
Malcolm Hartzog?
And Gifford.
Oh, Gifford. Okay. So
and you know my affinity for Gifford.
Mhm.
And it stems from him kicking, coincidentally, it stems from him kicking our tail when I was at a different high school. And I joked about how he told us to enjoy our bus ride back home and take our happy asses back to Omaha. Yeah. And I couldn't even be mad. I said this real time. They put it on. I couldn't even be mad.
what's the final score?
Fudge, I don't know, 27-7 maybe or something like that. They beat us good. And
That's a good football game.
They beat us physically, which wasn't the way that we would
score 27
points.
That
we wouldn't
normally
get.
you'd win
We
physically.
typically didn't get handled like that, and it was the second time that we had seen them that season, and I mean, it was just a tough matchup. But anyway, so I just watched him. You know, he's getting in and out of his breaks. You know, he's a real sudden guy, and I'm like, this isn't the guy that I saw last year. Kind of looked a little stiff, but I do know. When I talked to the coach, so I asked Coach Bush this last year when he took over, and I said, man, you got to tell me about Singleton. I mean, he's kind of highly recruited, and like, what's going on? And I just would ask him about some of these guys. So he gave me his attributes. I just remember, you know, he talked about his physical attributes, and I was like, man, you know, I just don't see it. Right? He's like, oh, you know, just got to get him unlocked and get him playing with confidence. Need somebody to believe in him. You know, he's got a chance. Even Coach Bush, Bill Bush said he's got a chance. And I watched him because the DBs are right. I'm 15 feet from those guys, and I know what I'm looking for. Right? It's like I watched the drills, I watched the run fits. I told you, I alluded to, I didn't say specifically. I was like, yeah, they got a couple of drills I want to steal. One, he was showing his rear end in one of these drills. I'm like, man, this dude is all right. Right. And I watched how he carried himself in the breaks. And I'm like, you know what? That's why I said it. I was kind of confident. I was like, keep an eye on him. Like, he's going to be in the mix because he's interesting with his athleticism. That's where it came from.
Yeah, it's unbelievable work. Just by you and how you like put two and two together there.
I'm
like,
weird.
Connecting the dots and going back to conversations.
No, sometimes
back to you.
Sometimes it works against me because I'm pretty analytical when I want to assess talent. Right? Like, there are some guys people really like, and it's more physical than it is. I'm like, man, I'm not riding with that guy in crunch time. He can do all those things, or she can do all those things. They're gonna wet the bed in crunch time. Like, I just can't get on board with that. And then there are other guys who can't play dead sometimes, but I know, like, when it's nut cutting time, like,
they're there.
Yeah. So you kind of have to negotiate it over time. And I don't have any set rules except for how competitive I think you are. That's usually the underlying thing.
Coach Rule said yesterday on Sports Nightly, or 2 days ago on Sports Nightly, now I think he's going to be one of our best players. So everything that you just said of him, like, the inability to be unlocked, little timid, little stiff. Now he's going to be one of the best players in a year's time. And then you listen back to that most recent episode of The Look In when they had Trev come onto the field and other NFL.
Hey, who's the first round draft pick? Anybody out here a first round draft pick?
Trev, raise your hand.
Trev wasn't even going to do it.
Yeah, I know.
He's like, come on out here, Trev.
Yep. And then it was who redshirted and who's this, who's that.
Yeah, who's got NFL experience.
He needed the right coach, and the right coach for him was Coach Rule. Because if Coach Rule goes out there in front of the entire team and says, it's okay to redshirt, it's okay to develop, I want 11 guys out here.
Yeah, we left a guy at that age that came to the university and still redshirted. Sometimes we leave those guys, we throw those guys away.
Right.
But one thing Coach Rule seems to thrive on is making somebody something you think they aren't. Like, that dude is bent on stuff like that. He is the consummate cheerer and advocate for underdogs.
Just talk about a guy that made a huge jump, Deshaun Singleton. Okay, we will take another short break. When we come back, we will get into, I'll set up the show, and then we'll get into more thoughts here on Coffee and Cream.
The show will be back in 4 minutes.
some days out here.
The show will be back in 3 minutes.
We threw the ball, really just kept going back into the pitch, right? So Coach Osborne was the first to tell me that, like, man, like, the wind. Want to run the football. You just
The show will be back in 2 minutes. The show will be back in 1 minute. The show will be back in 30 seconds. Coffee and Cream with Rogers and Benning on Hurrdat Sports Radio.
Hey, welcome back. Coffee and Cream, DB. AR, as DB would call me. We have Ravi Lulla coming up at 8 o'clock, which is funny because I felt like, well, and you too, we felt like we've talked to this man nonstop over the last week. So we're going to talk to Ravi again.
Hey, I looked at Shane. I'm like, what are we talking to Ravi about? Spent all afternoon with that guy yesterday.
And it's going to turn into our
Three
Amigo segment.
How about the little, what were you guys all doing out at headquarters watching television? That looked like a frat house in there.
It sure did. And I turned on the newest episode of The Look In. Ravi said he hadn't seen it yet either. So we were waiting for you and JP to be done with your pod. Well, he was. Yeah. I was there to just.
Dude, it was like the best thing about coming out there watching, because there are like 4 of you guys, 5 of you guys out there.
Because you went in with just Ravi and I.
Yeah.
You came out.
And it was like Bob Deep. I was like, what is going on out here? I was still pissed at Shane because it was 86 in the recording studio, and it was like 66 out where you guys are sitting.
I think it was 74.
Dude, that was total trash. Like, what was going on in there?
I like it warm, but that was a little much in there.
Hey, how about Sasha looking at me, deadpan, straight face? She goes, dude. I said, why is it so hot in here? She goes, I can't figure it out.
Yeah.
And I was like, so then I tried it. You know I'm a dummy.
You come out there and you're like,
dude,
what's the point of this when I want it to be turned down and cooler? And I'm like, yeah, DB, you get that thermostat. That is its job.
You know, like, I would be held accountable, right? Like,
I'm told, okay.
Smart ass Ravi was like, well, here says the guy with a sweatshirt on. I was like, look, man, I can control me. Like I can deal with the elements. It's the principle of the matter.
Right.
The thermostat's job is to regulate. It clearly is not doing their job. I'll self-regulate. Don't worry about me, Ravi. I'm talking to the thermostat right now. Okay?
It's me and Dr. Therm.
Yeah.
I'm told by Cam. Cam told me over the summer.
You can't trust a guy with that long of a beard.
Well, he's tall, so I trust him.
Okay.
I mean, I trust everybody.
More of afraid. This dude, they're out having a little meet and greet. I'm trying to go to work yesterday. I'm like, why are you two just standing out in the hallway for like minutes?
Like when you were trying to get inside?
No, I was inside. I wanted to start the podcast.
Yes.
And they're out here just shooting the breeze. I'm like, you taking notes?
He tells me that in the building in headquarters, there's 2 sets of thermostats. One's controlled by the building, one's controlled by us. That might be a building-controlled one, which we don't have control over.
But why would that ever be the case? Like,
I don't know. That's the first time I've ever heard that.
Listen.
And on top of that, why would they want to set the building when it feels like over 100 degrees outside at 74?
It's total first world problems.
Right?
I mean, we could be in Botswana or
68
or Soweto or
as Bobby Boucher would
it's
say.
Probably 109 there too.
Friggin' Melbourne. Wait, Melbourne's they're on the other half of the equator too.
It's probably nicer there.
Zip it,
I
Marty.
bet they have big spiders like we had on our stage.
I let him go in the grass.
Yeah, if you're out
in your grass,
if you're out in the desert,
right out here where we park.
Oh, so you didn't drive with them?
No, I'm still mad. I'm still mad about the Lunchables, bro.
So Shane, funny story.
This is not funny.
It's very funny because it didn't happen to us. It happened to DB. So I'm driving out and I stop because he's got that wolf spider in a cup with a lid on, people, with the lid on. And I was joking with them. I'm like, you poked a hole in there. It's going to sneak through and then you're going to look down at some point on your drive home and it's going to be gone. You're going to be like, oh no, where's this spider at? But then it was right as he opened his trunk and there were groceries in his trunk. Yeah. And it was a bag full of Lunchables. And if I could show you what the cheese looked like, let's just say
all the cheese looked like nacho cheese
together.
And I was so mad. And I told Drew Don, I was like, normally I wouldn't be mad. I don't even like Lunchables. I got them for Zoe because even the fancy ones rang up like $1.07. So I was getting like $3 off. And here's the kicker. The sale was only a 3-day sale. It was a 3-day snack sale.
And you went over the weekend.
Yeah. No, I went Sunday. I picked them up Sunday. No, what was yesterday? Or what was the day that happened? I picked them up Monday.
Yeah, Monday.
Yeah, I picked them up Monday. It was a 3-day sale. So I ordered them on Sunday to get the sale, but I didn't pick them up
on Monday.
Yeah, so when I saw you, those jokers had been in the vehicle. I took them to Verzal. I was mad. But I had to go get some ground beef. So I swung out there real quick. I was like, man, I ain't got much time, blah, blah, blah.
And it was just like, why are you so upset?
Because I needed I gotta really start meal prepping.
Or a Verzal line would have been like, what crawled up your behind?
So I gotta really start meal prepping. So I wanted a bunch of ground beef. So I swung out there real quick. And I was like, man, can you believe I said, forget it. I'm just going to show you. And I walked because I wanted to throw them away in his trash. I didn't want them in my car anymore. So I had to bring them in at some point.
I thought you were about to say you didn't want them in your trash.
I didn't.
Oh, so you threw them in his trash?
Yeah.
Because, okay.
I don't want things rolling around my garage. If it's a perishable, I don't put it in my trash until the last minute to go out. I don't want anything. It's weird, but you could probably eat out of my trash. But anyway,
that's disgusting.
It is.
Are you the type of person that puts dog poop in other people's trash?
No. So this dude looked at me and was like, he's like, what an idiot. And I was like, I get it. he's like, "You're mad over such and such dollars," and I was like, "It's not. It's the principle of the matter." Because that's only happened to me one other time. I picked up a ton of meat. This was 2 years ago, 3 years ago, maybe.
Well, then you don't
all spoiled.
You don't.
Well, one package fell out.
Oh, in your car.
And it thawed over time. And I was like, what is going on?
You don't get the sale
and
that
no,
way.
it wasn't the chuck. It wasn't the cube steak. It wasn't the ground beef.
It was the ribeye.
It was 2 strips in 4 packs, 1.5 inch thick cut.
You don't get
couldn't be the stuff I don't really
couldn't
want.
Be the stew meat.
Yeah. I don't even know what tip steak is. Why couldn't it have been tip steak? But anyway. What do you want?
You don't get the sale that way, or you lose out on the sale, and then also you have to go back again and re-get it because there's probably somebody in your household that wants that.
Yeah, Zoe I had to.
So then you had to spend $1.50 per.
No, I didn't go back. I was good. The goldfish, check. Saltine crackers, check. The scoops that I got, 2 for $4 that are usually $6.99, check.
Scoops. What are scoops?
So like Frito scoops.
Oh yeah.
Those things are like those Frito-Lay. They were like $5.39 regular price. Like for a thing of chips.
You should see what cereal costs.
You're talking to a cereal family.
Same.
I buy cereal in bulk when it's on sale.
Do you go to like Costco?
I go to
Sam's.
So I remember I got a couple of local grocery guys that help me out.
Right.
Boyce is my Fairway Family Fare guy.
Mm-hmm.
Johnny the Pig is my Hy-Vee guy. And I got a couple of Kroger Baker's guys. Severe, who has like 7,688,000 Kroger value points. It's unreal. It's he has 2 commas in his points.
In for? Like
gas.
Oh, gas.
Yes. 2 commas in his points.
And he hasn't used any?
No, he just used one like a month ago, I think. I think he paid like 78 cents. Something like that.
Must be nice.
Dude, Sauter's the same way. He just doesn't buy enough. Severe goes to the grocery store every other day. So I got guys that like help me like on the lookout.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It matters, believe me. I'm
having people? Yeah.
I'm still pissed at that. It looked like nacho cheese sauce.
I know.
It was mildly disgusting.
I was actually more worried about like what that turkey looked like.
No, I wasn't gonna open that.
Like, cause
I got the pizza ones for her, and I was like, man.
Well, the pizza should be. Oh no,
no, man.
I forgot.
No.
My bad. My bad.
Mm-mm.
I got there, Shane.
And she's into like it seems like I'm single parenting now with after school, like if I have time before practice. So I got her from school yesterday again. And
how was the roundabout? Easy?
Well, she's at
Oh, is it Micah's school that has the bad roundabout?
No, Micah's school is like fear for your life. But on Wednesdays they get out early.
Oh, okay.
So I did a total drive-by. That place is listen, West Side Middle. I mean, tread lightly. That place sucks. But Zoe's school is pretty cool, right?
Okay.
So I go in the back and it was early. So she usually gets a chance to play. But I had to get back because I had to be back at the high school for our Wizard Wednesday. I walked in this school and she looks at me like, why are you here? These teachers are like, yep, sure ain't her mom coming to pick her up because she would run to her. Dad comes in and it's like, but then I had to explain to the teachers to help my own ego. Oh, it's just because she hasn't had a chance to play yet. Not that she's disappointed.
Way to make yourself feel better.
Oh, fudge. They know that. Listen, the lady's looking at me. She pulls her glasses down. She's like, yeah, right. She wasn't buying it.
Okay, Dad.
Huh.
You wait in the corner until Zoe's done playing.
I wasted my Lunchables money, man. I'm still pissed over
That's all right. It's all right.
Because I wouldn't normally buy them anyway.
The steaks would piss me off more.
Oh, yeah. That was a total meltdown. That was a total meltdown.
I mean, because you go to the store and get a couple of strips, and you
Shane, I think I had that meltdown on air, didn't I? Because I didn't find it until a couple more.
That's like $35 worth.
And it was over the weekend, so it was like a Monday show, and I was livid. I listen. I put the box in the industrial bin outside the station. It wasn't going to my house.
No, you're hilarious. Yeah, let's make it somebody else's problem, right?
they're better equipped.
All right. As mentioned, we're talking to Ravi Lulla. We'll talk to Brian Edwards at 8:45, Michael Bruntz, and then we will talk some NFL to close out the show. But Ravi Lulla first up next.
We will be back in 4 minutes. We will be back in 3 minutes. We will be back in 2 minutes. We will be back in 1 minute. We will be back in 30 seconds.
We want to run the football. You should see some day.
Coffee and Cream with Rogers and Benning on Hurrdat Sports Radio.
We want to run the football. You should see some days out here. We had a practice. I think it was 2 weeks ago. If you threw the ball, it literally would just get blown back into your face, right? So Coach Osborne was one of the first to tell me that, Matt, the wind here is a factor. So we have to be able to run the ball at all times. But we also want to be explosive. We want to throw it. We want to push the ball down the field. So that balance of, hey, on any play they could do anything. I think is important to us. But, if we do have a lead, and when we have a lead, we want to put the game away. We want to end games. And, I think the thing about our backs that I like is they all have home run ability. They all, in their own way, can take it to the house. And, I love 4 yards in a cloud of dust, and that's kind of who we are. We're going to run the ball and try to establish a line of scrimmage. But we have backs that can, if you give them a crease, they can take it. So that plus Jeff's ability to run the football, I think allows us to be pretty diverse in our run game.
Top of the hour here on Coffee and Cream. DB, Andrew Rogers. You guys want to know about Pratt Dental? They're the only
Absolutely.
certified
Can they fix my teeth?
dentistry in Nebraska for this method called BioClear. So Dr. Pratt is the only dentist in Nebraska that provides this service. If you're in need of it, if you don't know what it is, and you just kind of want more information on it, you can go visit them in North Platte. But I'll give you some information on the BioClear method right now because it is an ultra-thin tooth-shaped form that allows permanent reconstruction of teeth with composite. It's an alternative to a crown. They can do multiple restorations in the same day. It's less time, less waiting, less invasive. And if you're like me and you go to the dentist and you hate because like they pick at your teeth and your gums and then you feel like you're all puffy afterward and whatever, like it feels like they're intrusive into your safe space, right? No, this is less invasive, DB, so it's better for you. Fewer appointments. You can give Dr. Pratt and Pratt Dental a call if you want more information, like I said, or if you just want to schedule an appointment. It's 308-221-2800. Now, coming back out of the break there as we stand by and wait for Ravi, something that Coach Rule had said there had me thinking, like, man, that seems a little chaotic. Like playing in the wind and understanding the wind and things like that, and talking to Coach Osborne. And I'm just like, again, it's things you don't think about until you actually experience it. It's like being at Bell West last week, and until I'm there watching them play football in that wind, and it was a sweeping wind from if you're on the Bell West sidelines from right to left, right? It was just coming through, so it makes things difficult. But then, ultimately what I kind of just settled on in my brain was just how well Coach Rule understands chaos. Like, he's just really good in that area.
It's weird how he low-key kind of seems to embrace it.
Right. So, like, and what I thought about was, he's all about progress, right? He wants year 2 to look different than year 1, because if in year 2 you look a little bit the same of in year 1, you actually took a step back, then a step forward, right? So it's a marathon. It's not a sprint. And that's what he's getting across to his players. And so I kind of broke it down like this. If it's a marathon, put yourself in somebody's shoes that trained for a marathon, okay? Yeah. The first few miles are easy, right? You're fresh, you're feeling good, you had a nice breakfast, you have the energy. Well, that's like the first football game of the season. It's exciting, right, to get those first few miles in. But then you start to settle into your pace about like mile 4. And those are your non-con games. You settle down, the excitement has come back down to an even-keeled level, and now as a player, you're feeling like, okay, we're back to business. It's not like a bunch of emotion. It's business now. I'm in week 2, week 3, week 4. But think about when you get to like mile 12, right? You're about halfway there.
It's Portuguese to me,
right?
But I'm gonna do my best.
Now you're feeling a little tired. You don't know if you can really keep pushing forward. Though, if you slow down, that it will only hurt you. It's kind of like Michigan through Michigan State, right? Some of those games are going to be really tough. You have to overcome some challenges. Other games could feel a little bit easier because, like, maybe you see your family cheering you on this marathon run at mile marker 13, okay, right? Okay. You take down Purdue.
I can't wait to see
take down
where
Illinois,
okay.
Right? It's a mixture of good and difficult feelings, right? And then the final stretch, when you get to that home stretch of your marathon race, it's the final 3 games of the year. You have Maryland, you have Wisconsin, and you have Iowa, right? But what do you do when you get to those 3 games? When you're running a marathon, you want to get it over, right? You speed up. You speed up. Now you are searching for something, right?
This might be the most crazy analogy I've ever heard. I'm with you, though.
So
I'm probably limping to the finish line.
And maybe you are. Maybe you're a little beat up from the race because of the year.
Hopefully, but I didn't have to use the restroom.
That right there is like the chaos that he thinks about. Like he's got the picture. He instills that in his guys, but he knows how to find balance in chaos.
It's weird. You know, I think he started backwards watching film, and this was in the off season, and he was watching all these 1-score losses. Right. And he was going back to these moments watching film where I think he felt like the tide turned and Nebraska kind of lost it. And it kind of gave him a blueprint for how to coach them ahead of time with some preventative measures. Right. Let's work down in distance. Let's work 4-minute offense. Let's work 2-minute one timeout. Where situationally, he put them, hey, sudden change. Hey, defense, you thought you got to stop, penalty. You guys got to come back out on the field. Defense, we didn't like the way you're playing. Get off the field. Let's start again. Like all those things where you want to get in your feels and have cost you games before. It's almost like he's trying to work preventatively where he like embraces the chaos, because the more you tackle chaos in the face, the less chaotic it seems. Right. It's just, and I think he wants his guys. This is just my opinion, but like he seems like he's so interested in making sure they're ahead of the game emotionally, way more than physically.
And that's it.
I mean, doesn't it?
That's the point.
It seems like that. And that's not to say, listen, man, like, their body types, they look good. My man Preston the other day, he was like, he used the term that I like. I hadn't heard it for like 3/4 of my life, but now when people say it, I know exactly what it means. He was like, hey man, you know, they look good on the hoof, you know, like.
Mm-hmm.
So I listen. I like the body. I'm into that. Like I like that kind of stuff, and I understand the biomechanics and how he's got DJ moving and you know how Gifford looks pretty twitchy, and you know I like Bullocks and you know Justin Evan Jenkins, like a guy that I didn't think they would get anything out of up front on the offensive line, like it's putting himself in a position to start at center, right? And it's like I get the body types and understanding that, but the whole other part of it is the evolution of the mind. Look at the look inside. How much of that is like psychological warfare? And I get it. It's a little it's a little scripted, but it's still who he is. It's still what he talks about, right? Like when he says things like I'm rolling with the real ones, he's preparing. He's giving you every opportunity to be a real one. It's not for everybody.
And it starts with that emotional piece,
right? It's all about understanding the psychological warfare,
and that's why understanding the chaos is so important to push through in year one, because he knows these guys have the physical attributes to be good football players. You wouldn't be on the field right now if you weren't physically all the way there.
I wonder if that's what he was talking about. Now that you say that, like this is the micro. Like when he talked about we are going to have a good offensive line. I'm not subscribing to that narrative because remember he said that early.
That's why he kept Donnie.
Building that emotional confidence and saying, hey, listen, you know, we got to call plays in such a way where they can play to their strengths. Like, let's let these guys get lathered up. Maybe they aren't the best with quick set or pass, you know, 5-step or this, that, and the other. But maybe if we do this, this, and this, maybe if we gap, maybe if we pin, maybe if we pull, maybe if we're not so zone, you know, like whatever. Maybe we're playing to their strengths. And so he instills that in those guys. Because you listen to what they say after the press conferences all the time. Who's the new guy?
Hey, did you know that's his car, the Chrysler? That's his.
I would have never put. It's funny that I brought that up. I talked about how distinguished.
I saw him pull in and I walked out and I was like,
I used to want one of those. I feel like I could be an adult. They look so distinguished. And that's who's rolling in it.
You're an artistic James Bond.
Oh, my goodness.
He's like, I'm good with that.
He's still got the strong. his fashion sense is pretty good, even when he's not trying to be fashionable.
There's Scott right there. Everybody wave to the camera. Scott, thank you.
That's
I didn't even know if they could see
our
that.
graphics and art guru. But I think that the art of his psychological, he's just a technician. Remember early? Hey, my biggest goal with this staff is to let them know this isn't Disneyland. Right? Like,
that's how happy times.
Dude, that's the first thing you thought of with your staff?
You get to Disneyland and you're like, ooh, let's ride.
How many months ago was that? How many months ago was that? 5, 6, 5? He's fresh on the job.
You know, I'll tell you.
So he's already thinking about, how can I not get them to fall in love with, while this place is amazing, we have work to do. He wants you to understand that, listen, man, like you gotta embrace, you got to embrace the environment, and you got to take it head on. And I think that's what he's about, right? That's why he says, hey, you know, what he said about bets wasn't all football related. Hey, listen, if a guy says, if that was my son, I wouldn't let him quit. That's the emotional piece. That's the mature growth and development. When you have a quarterback that has all that starting experience, want to transfer, and you're wondering if he's gone from compliant to obsessive, and would the obsessive be a detriment to everybody else on it? Like, that's psychological. He's already, hey, just showing up, doing something well at a 1% level better every day. That's psychological. Hey, yesterday, man, you guys were probably operating about 3/4 of what you are capable of. Hey, can we get to 76% today? Hey, yesterday, man, you guys felt about 80% on what you're capable of. Because who's ever operating at 100% maximum capacity? Barely ever. But the 1% thing, like, that works. We say 3, he says 1, but I get it. You just want to be better. Do something better than you did the day before, because what it does is it builds emotional stability.
You would get this because you've been coaching for 20 years now, more?
Correct.
20 years. You know, it sounds silly, but even yesterday when I was at baseball, just for an hour, I was like, I came in this morning, I'm like, DB, how much work do you think we got done yesterday?
In an
hour?
Like, no.
Yeah, it's like you can hardly get like a lot of work done. But you can get a few things done, right? Especially if you station well. Now, we didn't have Matt Rule stations when you were moving every 5 minutes, but we did have stations. Well, we were doing a base running drill, okay? And this all goes back to 1% better, understanding the psyche. We were doing a base running drill, and guys would just kind of lollygag out there, get into their lead, pitch would be thrown, and then go. And I saw like a couple of groups like go, and I just kind of stopped it. And I go, guys, I know it sounds silly, but you have to take your lead as if you're taking one in the game. Your left foot, big step first. You spin your body, you take 2 side steps, now you're in your lead, right? You do everything like you're doing it in a game. It's similar to what Coach Rule has been doing, like telling these guys in practice too. Like, some of this stuff may sound silly to you, but I do this because as much as you think you may be the smartest guy in the room or the smartest guy on the field, you're probably pretty dumb. And if I dump something down for you, it'll be easier to understand, which is why I'm going to go back to that little lineup where he had Trev and T Knight and the rest of the guys out there with the red shirt thing and everything. And like, know that you can develop, and then going back to stories like Deshaun Singleton, all of that stuff he wants to instill in these guys, because by going through the basics, sometimes you can always find a way to learn something new, or you learn something about yourself. How serious are you taking this?
Well, I think for him, when he's trying to get those young guys ready through that with the seriousness of how they're, it's more like once he can get those guys and that staff to understand it's not just athletics, that's when it really because then it becomes a lifestyle. You know, Dr. Widman he's authored this deal called Max Out, and he's like one of our hidden gems. He works a lot with the teams, collegiate teams, you know, Creighton and Nebraska. And And I asked him the question the other day. He was talking to our kids, and I said, how do you know when something moves from because I should or because everybody else is doing it to a lifestyle? Like, are there telltale signs? And he's basically talking about repetition of the method through various forms. Like sometimes it is an athletic example. Sometimes it is catching somebody in the hallway. Sometimes it is how you're paying attention in film. How can you reiterate the same concept through different means with the same message over and over again? Because then you'll learn, like, oh, okay, that's the practical application of this in terms of going to class for the 4th consecutive day in a row. Oh, that's the practical application of, last time in 9-on-7 in our short yardage period, I got my tail kicked. But the practical application is to do it again and to do it better than I did it the day before. Or, hey, listen, I know those coaches didn't look good with their running drills. They said that they would do the same things as our players. Oh, my gosh, the coaches are better than they were the day before. Oh, Coach Rohr, you were last. Now you're – all those little reminders of, hey, it sounds cool to say, but it's even better to do. The more that you show how they're doing it, that's just how you cross over. That, like, that's truly like the maxing out mindset. And I say all this when you give me those examples of training and to replicate game situations and marathons. All I could, the thing that's going through my mind is situational awareness. It is something that has eluded this program for years, and it's not related to your physical performance. It's a mental deal. It's a preparation deal. And I think a lot of people get out of bed and they're like, man, you have these goals, but they're not sure on the finite steps.
And they need help getting there.
And they just need guidance. Right? Like, and I think I'm hoping, I looked up some stats the other day because he keeps referencing Minnesota. And it's not just because they're the opponent. He's referencing the attributes that's made them successful. 3.6 penalties a game, getting off the field on 3rd down, not giving up chunk plays, consistency in running the game in terms of rushing attempts per game. Those are repeatable. Because guess what? None of those things have anything to do. I don't care what anybody says. Me and my main man, Severe, used to argue about this all the time. He's like, yeah, well, if you're more talented, those things wouldn't happen. No, they're not talent related. Well, he goes, and now this is a good point he would make sometimes. He's like, I wouldn't have to hold if I was a better player. Right. Like, what am I supposed to do with that? I was like, okay, all right, yeah. I get that to some degree.
No, I don't think that's still the case. Like,
but it's just funny because he's very practical, right?
But everybody gets beat,
right? He's just it's just what you get when we have to go round and round about these good debates. But I would say pre-snap penalties. Like, there's no reason to not be on the line of scrimmage. Mm-hmm. There's no reason to false start. Like, even if you think this guy, oh my God, this guy's going to really whip my tail. He's significantly better than me. Right. It's still a controllable to not move. So if Nebraska can limit
especially because your first step is always backwards.
Listen, if Nebraska can limit those things, if you can become a team with there were 27 teams in the NCAA last year that were penalized 5 times or less.
27 teams.
Just 27.
5 times or less?
Or less. 27. Now, there are a couple of ties, right?
I don't know that.
A couple of teams were like 3.4. Guess how many times Iowa was penalized a game last year? As bad as that offense was.
I'm going to say, because they would fall into the 5 times or less category, I'm going to say, is it a percentage? Or is it a decimal? 2 point something?
4.3.
Darn it.
Minnesota was the best in the conference at 3.6. Iowa 4.3.
Who had the best overall?
Minnesota.
And it was
in the country.
Wow.
In the country.
So roughly, if we'll round up, 4 penalties a game.
Just imagine if you're Nebraska and you're 4 or less penalties a game. And I'm not talking about the aggressive ones. I'm not talking about like
PI.
Yeah. I'm talking about procedural. I'm talking about a true controllable. Not enough men on the line of scrimmage, breaking the huddle late, delay of game, something like that. You change the way that offense can play dramatically because you stay on schedule. Those are control. That's not talent. That's not talent specific. For as few of penalty yards as Iowa had kept them in games. Do we realize that Iowa won 8 games?
It's shocking, but we realize it
because fundamentally
they're sound.
Like that stuff matters. And I get it, right? You can get into the, hey, but when they play against like competition, they're not explosive and Nebraska beat them. Listen, that's great. Nobody, well, I won't say nobody. Very few people were happier when they beat Iowa than
you.
Right?
On the call.
Right. Like, and I'm watching it and I get to see people say, but that shouldn't be an anomaly that you can play in such a way that gives you a chance to win at the end of the games. And I think that he's heck bent on that. I mean, the whole it's just, they're learning not to be blinkers, right? If just imagine the freedom in your sleep when you stop wetting the bed, right? It's like all of a sudden as a kid, you're like, whew.
It's nice to be able to not change the sheets middle of the night.
just imagine when Nebraska stops wetting the bed.
Oh, it feels nice to get a win.
They were inventing ways to lose.
Then another win. Mm-hmm. Oh,
that gives you
plenty.
See that should give you optimism. Now and it may not be this year. Remember, I'm still the guy that's worried about how they're going to move the ball consistently, right? Like, I keep an eye on Marcus Washington. I got to keep an eye on his health and what's going on with this receiving core. Like, there are some things. I mean, is all of a sudden Jeff Sims going to stop turning the ball over?
Does route running by Alex Bullock translate to the field?
So, I mean, those are legit. Those are legit concerns. But if you want to be optimistic, it's that things can improve by just simply being situationally aware
and just understanding. It's just understanding whether it's chaos like we started or just understanding the job at hand.
I ask our kids every day. Coach Quinn will call up, Code Red. I say, hey, where are we and what are we doing? Where are we currently, like this very second, and what are we doing? Say it over and over again.
It had me thinking back to the drill that we did yesterday. Like when a ball skips up on a catcher, you got to know where that ball's going.
Where am I?
It sounds silly.
And what am I doing?
Right. That your question to them sounds silly because it's muscle memory, but it's all about understanding.
Just practicing self-awareness.
Quick break. More CNC next.
We will be back in 5 minutes. We will be back in 4 minutes. We will be back in 3 minutes. We will be back in 2 minutes. We will be back in 1 minute. We will be back in 30 seconds. Coffee and Cream with Rogers and Benning on Hurrdat Sports Radio.
All right, welcome back. What did I type in because I didn't know his name? We're just having some fun during the break here on Coffee and Cream. DB, AR, happy to be with you. We are live from the H&H Chevrolet stage at Hurrdat Sports Bar and Grill. The Warhorse Casino phone lines open, 888-638-4876 for your thoughts. We also see you in the YouTube comments, sending your thoughts our way. We are live on YouTube, the Hurrdat Sports YouTube page, and then we're live on Twitter right now as well. Speaking of comments, DB, as much as Coach Rule doesn't like talking about his depth chart, right? Because he gets asked about it a lot.
Nobody asks about depth charts as much as you do. We're going to have a depth chart. He's wild.
I brought up the final 3 jersey numbers yesterday. I when I was at the office, because you asked me, like, why were you sitting there watching TV? I was waiting for everyone to leave so I could do a TikTok in that room. And so I did one on the single-digit jersey numbers and, like, who I thought would get them. And we kind of talked about this on the show last week, but I'm bringing it back up because it was something I heard from Coach Rule too on Tuesday when he says he looks at certain guys as peers. And so he brought up Reimer's name, Gifford's name, Henrich's name. And I'm like, okay, like these are all guys that are a part of your single digit family. And then he brought up Ty Robinson's name. He brought up Quentin Newsom's name. 2 guys that aren't in that family, but could be. So now I'm like trying to pull my own DB and connect some dots, right? So when I posted my my little take yesterday, I had Newsome getting his 6-pack, which I've always been on, and you have too. I switched my pick from Buschini to Robinson because I forgot about Buschini wearing 18 for Brooke. Like he's doing it in honor of him. So then I was like, all right, what should my last one be? We wanted a skill player. 8's the number alive. Kyle Pitts wears 8, another tight end. Let's go with Thomas Fidone. You know, tough guy, really represents the jersey well. And, you know, instantly I'm getting comments like, well, the players do the voting, not Coach Rule. And I'm like, did I say that the players like didn't do the voting? But then I was like, at the same time, I get that, but don't think Coach Rule doesn't have a say at the very end of the day. Like players will come and vote, and then Coach Rule approves, right? He's the president.
Yeah,
he checks off or he can veto, right? And then the other big thing was on Fidone. And what I don't like right now when trying to decipher that, we've been talking about earning something all show, right? It started with like earning the win, earning the right to, you know, have these fans come back over and over and over again at Nebraska. And so when I brought up Fidone's name, the big knock on him was he hasn't earned anything yet. But what actually has been earned under Matt Rule? Because like Matt Rule hasn't earned anything either, other than respect in the offseason, because we haven't seen the product on the field for Nebraska. So everything, this whole idea of single-digit jersey numbers has nothing to do with what's been earned or is being earned on the field right now. It's about
outside of work ethic and leadership.
Right. It's about what's going on
the
in
actual
practice and
play.
camp.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm with you. Because that way, if that was the case, Jeff Sims wouldn't have a wouldn't have a number.
Correct. Jeff Sims wouldn't have a number. There's plenty of guys that wouldn't actually have a number. Like Billy Kemp, would he have a number? Because he hasn't earned it for Nebraska. He's earned it on the field elsewhere, but he hasn't earned it for Nebraska. We're looking for, in regards to giving out a single digit, you're looking for a leader. You're looking for somebody that embodies what Matt Rule's about, that tough mentality. And you also want somebody that just represents the tradition of Nebraska well. So you're going with personality when you're giving these jerseys away. You're not going with anything else. Does he have leadership capabilities? If he doesn't, he probably won't get a jersey because he's looking at the guys that separate themselves from the rest of them and can lead the charge. When the defense got sent off the field in that practice clip the other day, who were the two people talking to coach to bring the second squad or the first squad back on after getting kicked off for a second time? It was Henrich and it was Gifford. You know what numbers they wear? 2 and 4. They're the leaders of that defense, and they earned that right by what they did in practice. So we're talking about practice in camp when we give out these digits.
You in your best Allen Iverson voice.
That's it.
We're talking about practice,
man. We're talking about practice.
Not a game. Not a game. Not a game.
Those are the guys, though, that Coach Rule looks at and says, these are my peers. Like, don't say he looks at every player and those are his peers.
No,
like,
and you know the funny thing about you bringing up Fidone, and I don't know what's going to happen with the single-digit situation, but I will say this. He has said on a couple of different occasions that they have some similar personality traits, right? Like, you know, Fidone was mad at him for a while when he wouldn't turn him loose practicing, and he's kind of mad at him when he kept the reins on him. And, you know, the first couple, 2-3 times he talked about it and was Thomas not being exactly tickled that things weren't going at his speed. That sounds a lot like Coach Rule. And so I think they hit it off, right? I mean, you know, they text quite a bit. They had to kind of develop this relationship where they could talk about a ton of different things about what the vision was that was being casted. So they do have some like components emotionally. Like I'll give you that. And I don't think Fidone has any problems working. He's relentless. So, you know, how well he'll be received by teammates and all that other stuff, I have zero clue. Zero clue. But if you're looking for a couple of attributes that they would gravitate towards.
And that's just what I based everything off of, was what does Coach Rule like?
Well, I mean,
and
it's
who's been talked about,
it's
right?
It's all, until they lace them up and go out and play, it's all.
We'll never know. We'll
I
never
mean, I
know.
had somebody the other day tell me, well, you call Alvano a Sunday talent. He's got a lot to prove. And I'm thinking to myself, Sunday talent. That means he has the ability to play on Sundays. I haven't gotten into production. I haven't talked about any of that. Like, I'm just telling you, like, he's a guy that has got a 60-yard leg. He's highly competitive. He's got really good work ethic. He's a son. I know he hasn't proven anything. I mean, fudge. Neither has Sims.
Right.
Neither has. I mean, fill in the blank. Right? Like,
that's what I said. I said you could argue majority of this team hasn't proven anything.
And look, Deshaun Singleton hadn't proven a thing. Not one.
And you know what? Next year, man, after we see him prove something this year,
Nash
it's going to start over.
Hasn't proven a thing. So it's just like
Coach Rule's going to start everything over.
Yeah.
And then they're going to find somebody else that wants it for the following season. Just because you earned it the season before doesn't mean you're guaranteed it next season.
Which is exactly how he's going to probably operate too. Remember, this ain't Disneyland. Which one's bigger, Shane? Land or World? You'd assume World. Right? World means world.
The world's always bigger.
Well, in Disney World, doesn't it have like 5 parks?
Is Disney World the one in Kissimmee?
Florida.
Kissimmee?
Yes. That is in Orlando, Florida.
This ain't Disney World.
Which is bigger?
No, it's Disney. It's got to be Disney.
Better
World.
type faster than that. Walt Disney World is much bigger in total area. Wow, Disneyland resides on more than 500 acres. How many do you think Disney World covers? Let's just say there's a comma in there. And it's a 5-digit number.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
30,000?
27,000 acres of land. Dude,
that's why,
double the size of Manhattan.
That's why you can't run out to your car. You'll see it tomorrow by the time you get out there.
Dude, my brother growing up got lost at Disney World. Like, they were at like a park with my parents, and I was too young at the time.
I'd be terrified.
And as if somebody wasn't watching from above, this old couple like had him like holding his hand, helped find my parents.
Wow.
Like, that just doesn't happen. That doesn't happen.
Yeah, I can laugh now because
blessing.
he's safe and found,
Yeah.
but I would be traumatized. That's arguably my greatest fear.
Getting lost?
No, losing my kids.
Oh, the other way around.
Yeah. Like,
yeah, you're like, no, I probably could deal with getting lost.
Yeah, I'll figure it out.
If I went quiet.
I'll figure it out. I can walk. I'll hitchhike. I'll do something.
Would you hitchhike for real? I couldn't. I watch too many like Criminal Minds shows where like the hitchhiker dies because they get into a car with a murderer.
I mean, leave it to me to be sizing up people's personalities before I get in. Oh, I can handle this guy. Oh no, he looks a little cray-cray. I'm good.
He listens to country music. No.
Yeah, I don't know, but I mean, I probably would.
I thought it was usually the other way around.
What's that?
Like the hitchhiker was the bad guy.
Yeah,
it could be. Just it all depends.
Just be wary.
But Damon showers too much to be like what a hitchhiker tends to look like. So it's probably going to be the guy that picks up DB.
Yeah, Bundy picked up a lot of people, Shane.
All right.
Just saying.
Let's change gears and talk to Brian Edwards. We'll get our sports betting game on.
See if we can make
week
somebody
0
some money.
football this weekend. Maybe we'll get into that. He's next.
The show will be back in 4 minutes. The show will be back in 3 minutes. The show will be back in 2 minutes. The show will be back in 1 minute. The show will be back in 30 seconds. Coffee and Cream with Rogers and Benning on Hurrdat Sports Radio.
I wonder who runs that NBNR account. I don't know if it's Kyle. I don't know if it's Connor. I don't know if it's Mike. They're all snarky. I don't think it's Jared.
Hey, they're wild.
They're awesome.
That is a wild buzz.
I love those guys. Shout out to the No Block, No Rock podcast. Always following along with us because we follow along with them. I'll just read it. He said, I will say it took a while. Yeah, I'm sure. But my Andrew's long-winded marathon analogy was actually pretty good, even if DB wasn't feeling it. Yes, sir. DB, you were vibing with that analogy, right?
A little.
Like, understand, like that's my analogy was all about Coach Rule understanding like the schedule.
I definitely understood it.
Understanding the chaos of the schedule.
I definitely understood it.
And how he kind of thinks through everything. So I just used my inner Matt Rule and thought through how he probably thinks through the schedule.
Oh, Coach Rule.
All right.
I wish he would move practice to a little earlier, though.
Coach Rule?
Yeah.
Why earlier?
So I could double dip. I kind of want to go back down there again real quick.
Wait, you mean just today?
Just in general. I have a morning show.
Well, I know, but wouldn't you want it later then?
No, because I have practice.
I meant like after the show's over.
Like 11?
Like 11?
Oh, that would be nice. That's this thing called.
So you were thinking like 6 a.m. practice?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. 5:30.
That's when we're up. So yeah, I would go. If we could go to practice, I would love that. But this thing, as you said, called the morning show, because I got asked that by the guys. So another podcast, Boys Down Bad, I went on with them on Tuesday afternoon.
Yeah.
And they were like, so like, do you get to go to practice a lot? And I'm like, nope. I said, I'm always on the air when they are practicing. And by the time I'm done, if I tried to race down there, at least for media availability, it wouldn't be worth it because I'd get there and be running in to probably Coach Rule's third question.
Although from here, it's about 29 minutes.
Right. So if we get off though at
you know what I mean? Like
56.
it's not as bad. Probably for you, I'd say 33 minutes, but it's not bad. It's
Why
anywhere
for me?
between.
Because I don't put pedal to the metal like you.
You're probably safer. Anywhere from 29 to 33
I'm driving
minutes.
with you then. You can get me there faster.
So it's like, because you're right on the interstate.
Mm-hmm.
And I always tell myself, once you get to Mahoney, it is all downhill.
Yeah, you can just really hop right in. Man, we are blanking today.
Why?
We're blanking out. No B yet. No B Edwards.
They're tired.
I know everybody's tired.
I can't sleep.
Sometimes he's over at his parents or whatever. So maybe
you making excuses for him there, Shane?
No. I mean, I'm just giving you. Remember when we had him on and that his mom walked by?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. He hit us with a DM later. He was apologizing.
Yeah.
I think she was just making breakfast.
I bet he's still trying to figure out the mute button.
You think?
Yeah, he's just over there like, is my mic working? Is it not? He's got his gamer headset on. Maybe he's in the middle of a Fortnite match. Who knows?
He is something else though. Like I
don't like it.
I don't. He's got such a cool personality. You think some of those guys are just kind of willy-nilly and off the cuff and high risk, high reward? He's like a tactical. He's like a study facts guy. Even in public, like, when we were in Vegas together for one of the fights, he's measured.
Is that where he lives, or does he live in Florida?
Didn't drink during the thing. He was dialed in. Like he's got a cool personality.
It's got to be
touchdown. Is he what?
I said, is he in Vegas or does he live in Florida?
He's a Florida guy.
Okay.
Yeah, he's Florida through and through. Oh my god,
he needs the sunshine.
Dude, this dude is all
sunshine.
All in. Are you in on
his? But the Vegas trips he takes is usually pretty good though.
Oh yeah. Are you in on his? Gators? Napier may be in trouble.
I wouldn't say I'm out on them, but I'm not all in on them either.
You surprised that the state school just like kind of like a thief in the night just is on the national radar, ready to roll?
Yeah, no, not really. I'm not surprised.
I didn't feel like Norvell was going to come out of the other end for a second.
That I could agree with.
I was like, ooh, did I blow this on Norvell? Nah, he's okay. He's got him primed and in good position, and they're recruiting well too. FSU.
Oh yeah, Florida State.
Yeah. Well,
give me some Travis Love?
Who'd you think I was talking about?
I thought you were talking about the Gators still.
I said, are you surprised that the state school just surpassed them like a thief in the night? Florida State, the state school.
See, I took that as like the school of the state. Florida. I'm back now. I'm back.
Old Dominion.
Yeah,
that's
Is that the state school?
That's the state school. It's old Dominion. How about my man? Speaking of which, my man Matt Schick vibing with me on Texas Tech. But I found another one too. So there's a couple of schools that has some favorable schedules.
Is it Big 12? Is it
now this team isn't gonna make a run in the Big 10, but they have a pretty. Take a look at Rutgers' schedule. Them and Maryland have a chance, and I don't know what either one of their win totals are. Maryland has a very user-friendly, a very Terrapin-friendly schedule.
Who's quarterbacking Rutgers this year?
What's his buckets? Well, they're going to run the ball.
Is what's his buckets Vedral?
Rutgers has an okay schedule. Like it may catch you off guard, but I found another. I found another.
Winsat. That's who it is.
I found another school that we may kind of have to take a look at, because their other school, just their rival, gets all the headlines. Take a look at UCLA. Now, I know, I get it. They've got to replace DTR.
And you're not a huge Chip Kelly guy.
He's okay, right? Like, I felt like he was a little stubborn to reinvent himself, and the things that got in my head, he kind of rested in. But quietly, especially over the last couple of years, UCLA has ran the football well, and they've ran it with some toughness.
Well, yeah, they just had a guy go in the second round this year.
So it's like they have my attention, because I just wish I knew what was going on in the Pac-12, but they have such good quarterback play.
Always do.
And I know you like Nix a lot more. I think you like Nix a lot more than I do. See, Nix is one of those guys. I was telling this to Ravi yesterday, I think, during our Dish and Ish. Along the lines of Herbert, and it's weird that they're both Oregon guys. At some point, I think you got to win. You got to win meaningful games over time. And sometimes I think Nix is like, I don't know why I don't trust him.
Well, because he has all the talent in the world.
You know, like there's just something about like if I had a game to win, would I want him to be my quarterback? This
year I would say,
and everybody loves him. I mean, everybody loves Nix, but I'm a little.
But is it easy to like him because
I'm a little hesitant?
He's one of the big returning names, right?
Maybe
across the quarterback position in college football.
But that conference is littered with good quarterbacks.
It is,
especially if you get a healthy.
Do you think he's going to throw for like 45 passes a game this year with Kingsbury?
Caleb Williams. I mean, maybe.
Because
how about how the other day? Did you read the article? He called turning pro a gut decision. I'm like,
a gut decision.
A gut, like
you're going to decide
how much money you're
going to
like how much money you'd eat if you pass on going to the pros.
Right.
That's the only gut thing I can think is related. Because
how big is your NIL contract to be able to say it's a gut decision to go pro?
Yeah, I don't believe a word of that.
Well, because your rookie, let's just say his rookie contract's what, like $4 million more? Would it be more than that?
Well, his bonus would be
his bonus would be great, but like his salary would be about $4 million. Because I think that's what Jonathan Taylor's is right now.
Which by the way, can we? Maybe I'm biased because I like Cook. Why would Buffalo mortgage their young draft pick to get a guy that they may have to re-sign and give up assets? I don't get the Taylor.
How many assets do you give up for JT?
I don't know, some combination of a first rounder.
You think a first round pick?
Well, that's originally what Indy asked for, but they're not going to get it. But I mean, if I'm Buffalo and Cook, we trust. He's going to be nice.
See, James Cook has a lot of potential, but I think I would like Jonathan Taylor a lot more.
If I'm Buffalo, I think I stand down.
Depends on how much I'm giving up.
You know,
because how James Cook and JT are a year apart, so you're not losing anything age-wise. Well, maybe you are from a running back point of view.
What's Taylor? Is he 24?
24, I believe.
Yeah.
Unless
so they're 3 years apart.
Oh, Cook's only 21?
Yeah, he was a rookie last year.
What?
Yeah, unless I'm misremembering. I think he's only got like 100
James
touches.
Cook, and we get the British Explorer, not the running
Buffalo.
back.
Yeah.
23 is James Cook.
Like raw age?
Raw age.
Yeah. Okay. So
and Jonathan Taylor
is 24.
Is 24. Yep.
Yeah. So I mean, I wouldn't.
But you're right. They're 2 years apart in draft.
In years.
Taylor?
I would not. I don't think I would do that. Again, if I'm Buffalo, if I'm the Bears or Denver, I probably not even if I'm Miami do I do that. I don't think.
I don't know if I do it if I'm Denver.
Can you imagine Russell Wilson with consistent running game?
I could. I really could. Because
that's the only time
Williams can stay healthy this year, I think that's what you kind of bank on first.
Again,
if he doesn't,
riding on another young back, I could see it. Especially depending on what you can get, because as of yesterday morning, they only had 6 or 7 teams inquire and 2 make actual potential deals. I wonder if that number will increase.
All right, we're going to change gears and talk to Michael Bruntz when we come back in the 9 o'clock hour. Stick around.
We'll be right back in 4 minutes. We'll be right back in 3 minutes. We'll be right back in 2 minutes. We'll be right back in 1 minute. Coffee and Cream with Andrew Rogers and Damon Benning on Hurrdat Sports Radio.
All right, top of the hour here on Coffee and Cream, 9 o'clock on the dial. We're happy to have you with us. 590 ESPN Radio in Omaha. We're live on Twitter, live on YouTube, the Hurrdat Sports YouTube page. We are live now on KFOR in Lincoln for the final hour of the show. And speaking of Lincoln, let's talk to senior writer for Husker 24/7, Michael Bruntz now, who joins the show at Michael Bruntz on Twitter. Bruntsy, good morning.
How's it going?
I met Bruntsy for the first time in person at Bell West, like for the first time.
I didn't.
We talked to him for at least 6 months, and I'd never met him in person.
That's interesting. So where was your vantage point, Mr. Bruntz?
When I met Andrew?
Yeah, like where? Well, I mean, just generally.
He saw me across the field. He ran in slow
what you guys
motion
like lock
toward
eyes?
me.
No, were you doing most of your work from a photog like coverage standpoint? Were you in the end zones or what?
I was working the sidelines, not so much the end zones, but outside the 20s mainly. That's where they keep you.
That's what. Yeah. I don't get to do that as much as I'd like on Friday nights, obviously.
Is that because you're within the 20s?
You look like you get down there and pop off a couple photos.
Yeah. I wish I could use a camera. Hey, but I'm serious though. Wait, let me ask you something, because you were down there, and I've heard varying, different stories. I know what it was like in the stands. How was the wind on the field?
It was noticeable. I mean, I think it was when it was going right. Well, from the press box side, when it was going right to left, it seemed like it was pretty noticeable.
Yeah.
I think there was one kind of like 15-yard throw that Kalen made where he kind of sailed it a little bit, and there was a couple deep shots that he had going that direction too, that it seemed like the wind was giving him a little bit of trouble. Did you let,
because I mean, everybody was there, right? I mean, it's like you got
everybody in Omaha was there.
You got the three-headed monster over there. Did you let the first game opener, did you have a baseline in your head of what you thought you were going to see versus what you saw? Or were you like, hey, you know what? This is week 0. We're going to give Prep some credit here.
Well, I think I was kind of like everybody, where I was expecting like the triplet scoring explosion type thing. And then, I'd say probably, I don't know, like towards the end of the first quarter or so, you kind of had that thought of, oh yeah, this feels a little bit like a week 0 type game. So and that's not to take anything away from Prep. I mean, I think they did a pretty good job, I thought, of, really making Bell West earn everything.
Dude, how good is McClay?
Oh yeah, no, he was everywhere.
And we said this I'm telling you, he's a Division I player.
Yeah,
he's good. He's really good.
He's got great vision.
He's a great tackler.
That too.
Yeah, no, there are a few guys on that field that probably don't get the headlines that probably are going to get some looks sooner than later. But no, I thought it was it was a good game. I mean, it ended up being a good game. LVS had to kind of make some plays in the second half, and I don't know that a lot of people probably would have bet on that going into that game, that was going to have to be how it's going to play out. So I mean, we'll see. I mean, if that was more indicative of Prep, or if it was more a week 0 or whatever, but it ended up being a pretty good game, and I necessarily wasn't expecting that going in.
Notice how he said a lot of people and not everyone, because he knows I would bet on that.
So, but I do. So, like from a coaching standpoint, like I thought it was the best of both worlds, right? It keeps the energy level high and the anticipation for a showdown in a couple of weeks, and it also dials our guys in, because they're like, yeah, to baloney with all this young Prep talk, and like this is a really, really good opponent, and it keeps us dialed in for week 1 too, because it is Westside's biggest rival. Like I felt like that game was a perfect scenario, a tough, gritty, gutty game.
I mean, for everybody, right? I mean, for you guys, that it probably got your attention a little bit. Bell West probably, having to win that kind of a game right out of the gates, that'll probably serve them well, as the season goes along too. I mean, if you kind of go into that game thinking that, you're going to score a ton of points on people, and you kind of have to win a 4-quarter slug it out game that, you probably felt like you didn't play your best. I mean, that benefits them too. So, yeah, I mean, the first couple of weeks, on just with the way the schedule's broke in Omaha, will be kind of fascinating. With they've got North this week, and
that should be a good. I don't know about North's cornerback situation, right? I think they got to go young there, and figure out the running back spot. But they got weapons, and we know Bellevue West should be better week one after week 0. Like that one's going to be really, really interesting.
Yeah, no, I'll be curious to see what the lines look like in that game too.
Big.
You know, yeah, I know that.
Everybody talks about that line.
I mean, big. Like North's behemoth and Bellevue West has got good experience. I think one thing that was understated, not to just stay with last week's game, that's really understated. Prep against they're so well coached with reads, like they're going to be sound, right? Like so, and I think that will serve Bellevue West offensive line well down the road because they did run the ball with some success from the running back spot.
Oh yeah.
They did. I thought Prep tackled really well too.
Yeah, they were spectacular for week one. I typically don't do this like because they're an upcoming opponent, but I sent Coach Yonk a message. I said, hey, you know, kudos to the way you guys tackled in the first week. That was pretty impressive in the open field.
Yeah, you didn't have a lot of guys reaching. A lot of guys were getting to the ball too on the stuff to the short stuff to the outside. That was pretty impressive. But yeah, I mean it was a good game. I'm you know, pretty much standing room only. I mean, they had the line down around the parking lot.
Yeah, that was ridiculous.
15 minutes before the kick, so it was a good show.
Yeah, I definitely illegally.
My staff was laughing. I said, "Get there by 6," and they're like, "Oh!" It's like, "Yeah, we were comfy up there. The little smattering of red up there."
Did you find a spot for your car in a space?
Well, see, I'm a Bell West parking veteran, so I was way northeast in the back lot and went out through the neighborhood. I don't even mess around with the main entrance at all.
I was like at Honda Cars of Bellevue. That's like
that's the exit you take to get in there, though. You take the first exit and just go through the neighborhood.
Yeah, I'm not a vet. I parked in the lot, but I did manage to get out before the rest of the cars.
Dude, so Ravi parked there too. I was like, yeah, best wishes with that. Hey, so Bruntz, you in on the Deshaun Singleton hype?
Ooh.
You have to be, right? I mean, I think it's
you have to be.
Well, and you're so level. Like, that's not even your style. Aren't you a prove it kind of guy?
But is it hype? I mean, he's running with the ones. I mean, when you hear a coach talk about him the way that Matt Rule does, I don't think Matt Rule.
Yeah, he's not a hype guy, is he?
No,
not one bit.
And if it's a thing that's mentioned multiple times, sometimes unprompted, that I pay attention to that. And you know, Singleton's a guy that, you know, last year I don't even know if he would have factored in any kind of rotation. I mean, he was, you know, not even in the 2 deep, I don't think. But he's a big physical safety. I mean, we'll see if he can do it, you know, when the lights come on. But I know they like him, and I, you know, that's about as hypey as you can get right now is who's making a run on the depth chart. And I mean, I don't know if you guys watched that thing, the show that they released this week, but he was in that group that kept getting sent off and brought back and sent off and brought back. And that's the number one defense. So I definitely noticed that.
This was my favorite episode.
Oh, hands down.
The visual that he kind of created of the you know, who's going to be there next year.
Why? Yeah.
That was pretty striking. I thought a pretty good moment there.
Now, Bruntz, DB was spot on with the reemergence of Deshaun Singleton. I mean, because he made that claim about 2 months ago, like, hey, watch out for this guy. I was all in on the defensive line being better than what people gave them credit for a few months ago. And now we're hearing that come up a little bit in conversation too. We all probably have something, if not multiple things where we just got it right? Where we just feel like, yeah, we got this right. But what about you, Bruntz? Think about a time this year that you got it right. What'd you get right with this team this offseason?
You want me to take my victory lap?
I want you to take a victory lap for me.
I don't know that I've really had any scorching hot takes like that.
I'll tell you one thing you were right about early.
What's that?
your reluctance to jump in on the wide receivers. Everybody was battling around the names of the young guys, and you were like, yeah.
Bruntz has so many, he needed to be
He's
reminded.
like, yeah, I don't know. I kind of took Mike. So your kind of reluctance was when I started to take a deep dive in the spring. I was like, well, let me see what
let me check.
See what old Bruntz is, him hawing around. And sure enough, I was like, yeah, I'm not vibing.
Yeah.
I still wonder how they're going to get big plays.
Well, I mean, that's the question, right? Is can that group get open, and who's gonna win deep balls? I mean, because they, as much as they want to talk about, being bullheaded about running the ball and making that happen, the parts that they need to make that work is the deep shots. And Garcia Castaneda is probably the guy right now that you would bet on most of being that guy, just based on his experience. The young guys might have something to say about that, but the changing tone has been interesting as we've gone along, where you had, I think we talked about this last week, where you had at the start of camp, you needed those young guys to step up. You really needed them. And then, last week.
Oh, yeah.
Don't know if we really need them.
Yep.
So I'm still in the camp that you're probably going to need somebody. I mean, to me, this was said about the defensive line this week, but I think it probably holds true about the wide receivers as well, where it feels like you're probably going to see a mishmash of guys at various points this season, if they're ready, that aren't going to go over that four game plus the bowl game level. Like, I think that's probably what it's looking like at that spot. I mean, we've heard some names about young wide receivers who are doing well in fall camp, but nothing with any kind of consistency. So, yeah, I mean that group has been a question mark for a long time, and I it still is probably the biggest question mark in my mind on the roster right now going into the season opener is who's going to make big plays in that group. Because I just don't know that aside from Billy Kemp, who's going to catch a ton of footballs, I don't know what that group looks like either. Although I guess Marcus Washington's making his way back, but you need him to stay healthy, because that's a huge addition in my mind, just in terms of having a guy that's been through it in that group.
Now, Bruntz, last year too, staying on offense here, the overall feeling was if Casey Thompson wasn't in the game, you felt uncomfortable. Like, he made Husker Nation feel uncomfortable when he wasn't under center. Do you think Jeff Sims has the same effect on the fan base this season?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, I don't know that there's a ton of programs in college football that have a great backup quarterback picture. Nebraska certainly is in that. I mean, you have it's tough as somebody that's not at practice every day too, because you're going off of Chubba Purdy and Heinrich Harburg. With Harburg, it's a guy that hasn't appeared in a college game, so you don't really know. We've seen Purdy in a Nebraska uniform, probably not in great situations last year with the way the run game was put together and kind of what he was asked to do. The coaches feel like he can do it. Both of those guys are kind of like, you got to show me. When Purdy completes fewer than 45% of his passes last year, that doesn't, scream to me plug and play. We'll see, but so much of, if you had to go that route to a backup, is what you're able to do around him, and the big piece of that is the running game at the back. And I would definitely be a little bit concerned if it wasn't Jeff Sims in there. That he's going to do things in this offense that unscripted that are going to help Nebraska out a ton, and I just don't know that the other two guys have that ability right now.
Ravi and I had a really good conversation on the pod yesterday about what is it about when people that have performed a certain way are now around new people. Do we assume that they'll perform differently? And Ravi, because you're going to have to get that with Sims a little bit. Mm-hmm. And some of these guys that hadn't had success at their former schools, right? So Ravi kind of focused on, and it was interesting. Like, I just sat back and listened for a while, where he said, I think there's something to the ability to have adults putting people in the right positions to be successful, like playing to their strengths, if you will. I know it sounds easy, but how much do we just think, well, because they'll be in better situations, we may get something that we haven't seen before from player X?
I mean, that you just described the offensive line, right?
Oh, yeah.
That's, I mean, I know you're talking about Sims, but I mean, there's a lot of guys on this roster that, are in that boat. And I think the fact that you have a head coach and assistant coaches that are on the same page and kind of think in the same way, I think that helps in terms of getting everybody going the right way. Kind of the same cast of characters, but maybe getting a little bit different performance out of them. I mean, Sims, probably is in that boat. In my mind, certainly the offensive line is the biggest. That's the thing is can you get more out of guys who have been around for so long? I mean, when you look at that group, I mean, could you imagine where you have basically 4 multi-year starters and there's so much question about them? I think when you have kind of everybody pulling in the same direction, that'll help, because it just, identity helps that stuff. I think sometimes guys, need just a fresh start and a different perspective as players. And I think, Jeff Sims is a guy that's probably benefited from that. And, we'll see. But, a lot of the success that Nebraska is going to have or not have this year is going to depend on that question. Is how do you squeeze just a little bit more juice out of the orange from those guys, that have been doing it for a long time. And I'm guessing a lot of Nebraska fans probably feel like they know the book on most of these guys.
Man, Bruntz, speaking of the offensive line, you got me thinking back to something Piper said just a couple of days ago, that Minnesota runs a pretty basic defense compared to Nebraska. And, it had me thinking, does practicing complicated win them the week, though? Like, is there a lot of advantage to practicing against a so-called more complex defense going into this week 1 matchup?
It probably helps your ability to deal with something that you haven't seen before. I mean, when you're, constantly dealing with different looks and having to make different calls and reads and, kind of being comfortable with confusion, that probably helps you. I think this Minnesota game to me is just going to be more about the execution piece of it. I mean, Matt Rule said the other day, I mean, it's a team that doesn't beat themselves. They kind of keep everything in front of them. They're, they kind of know who they are. And, the way that you win those types of games is just by out executing. So it's a tall test for that offensive line right out of the gate. But I think it's, a test where, they're going to have to be sound, and they're going to have to show the types of steps that you would hope that group would make with multiple veterans and, consistent assistant coach held over from the previous year. So I think it'll be, for that group in particular, I think it'll be a pretty good read on maybe where they're at going into the season, because that group, more than anything, I get asked about, are they going to be better? Are they going to do this and that? It's like, well, we'll find out. I mean, that more than anything is the I don't know. We'll see it when we see it group.
Bruntz, is there something to, like, I'm kind of just listening, and we talk about, oh gosh, are they going to get big plays in the passing game? Or you're like, okay, that's the question. And then, but at the end of the day, if I talk about not making a ton of mental mistakes, keeping the penalties down where you can stay on schedule, would we be okay with boring as a sign of success for this football team?
Does boring win?
In this analogy, I
Well,
guess, right?
so
I mean,
I
think
guess,
people are gonna be
right?
okay
Do we
with
want
it.
do we want to be Minnesota? Do we want to be We don't want to be Iowa and be 130th in offense, but we'd love to be Iowa
We'd love to be
and win
8-4.
8 games. So
Or
I don't
85.
know, Bruntz. Like I know that question sounds kind of flippant on the surface, but I don't know the answer to that. Like
Yeah, no,
even
I
if
mean,
it did
it's a
win
fair
games.
question. It's a fair question. I think. I mean, there would almost be kind of a shock to the system, right? Like when you, for however, 5 years, when you just lose close game after close game
In
after
different
close game.
ways every time.
But yeah, and then but let's say you're able to run for 90 yards in the fourth quarter and just absolutely, Mo Ibrahim a team in the fourth quarter. I think people be okay with that. I mean, it's boring, but it's not to go all Jamal Lord here, but a win's a win. I mean, that's kind of where you're at with this program right now. Is if you can, play fundamentally sound football that looks okay, and you're able to kind of because in my mind, boring also means you're kind of imposing your will, and you're having a decent day up front, and I think fans would be okay with that. Would they be okay with that in year 3 or year 4? I don't know, but if you're winning those close games against conference teams that have kind of done that to you the last few seasons, I think right out of the gates people will be more than fine with that.
Winning's fun, right?
It probably wouldn't be good for the blood pressure, but I think they'd be okay with it.
Whose blood pressure, though? Yours or somebody else's?
My blood pressure's fine.
You talk like you're a 90/67 guy anyway. So you're what are you, probably like 46 beats per minute?
I've had 6 cups of coffee, and this is what you're getting.
Yeah, and now you're on coffee and cream. It's just fitting.
6 cups, Bruntz?
No, I'm probably 4. I'm good.
Oh, I thought he was going to say. No, I thought he was going to say
7.
2.
I thought
Like,
he was going to say,
no, I'm just
it's
kidding. Only
actually
1
7.
or 2. No, just 4.
Yeah.
Bruntz, it's 9:20.
Yeah.
He's like, yeah, you didn't tell me when to get up. I got up at 3.
Yeah, he's like, yeah. What's your
you get up?
My kids are up at 6, so I'm hanging on here.
So you get up at? Do you get up at 6 as well, or before them?
Usually around 6.
Okay, so you get up at 6. So in 3.5 hours, 4 cups of coffee. That's probably what my dad drinks.
Yeah, it's not a torrid pace. I'm not shaking. I'm good.
He's not shaking. He's stirred.
You're something else, Bruntz.
Michael Bruntz, we appreciate you, man. Thanks for taking the time.
Thanks, Mike.
Yep, we'll see you guys. Yep.
Oh, shoot. I wanted to ask where he was going this Friday. Is he still on?
No. You guys are besties now. Send him a text.
I know. I'll just send him a text.
How'd you know it was him?
He's still there.
He's wearing an A's hat.
Ask him.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Ask him. He's still here.
Oh, he just left.
Oh, he's not. Yeah.
He said, I ain't answering.
Yeah,
I'm
that's
out.
all right.
Gotta get it. Yeah, gotta
I got things to do. I got coffee.
I got another coffee to drink.
Yeah, I got to pour another cup. All right, Sports Six Pack up next.
We'll be right back in 5 minutes. We'll be right back in 4 minutes. We'll be right back in 3 minutes. We'll be right back in 2 minutes. We'll be right back in 1 minute. We'll be right back in 30 seconds. Coffee and Cream with Rogers and Benning on Hurrdat Sports Radio. Time now for the Sports Six-Pack, presented by Zipline Brewing Company, makers of Dear Old Nebraska Brew, the official beer of Nebraska alumni.
I actually cracked open my first can opener tropical ale yesterday as I was making chicken pot pie in the crock pot.
Oh, Lord. What were you thinking?
So I didn't have like the pie crust or anything. I wanted to make the contents first.
Yeah.
And then you can just add them later, right? Isn't that how you make a chicken pot pie?
I've never made it. I'm too big. I browned a bunch of taco meat, and I made like chicken thighs. I used that Korean seasoning that Asian Wyatt was responsible for, and is unbelievable. But I realized with thighs, if you don't make 1,000, they go quickly. They're very. I mean, Caleb put like 3 on his plate, and I think I only made 12.
Good thing that you guys only had like technically 4 people eating.
You know what I mean? It's like,
what did Zoe eat?
Rice.
Yeah.
But it was on the fly. Like, I didn't really see them. Like, it's just to grab and go.
Got it. Sure.
But yeah, I don't think I would make chicken pot pie. But
but it was kind of like a soup in the crock pot too, so you could do like a combo of both.
We're burning through a ton of protein. I need a new one. Maybe I'll cut up some pork steaks or something. It's like a hidden gem. My buddy Kevin turned.
I'll make you a bowl of my chicken pot pie.
Isn't it too hot for that?
I don't think so. I don't actually ever worry about the heat with the food I'm eating, which is kind of weird.
You just
like
roll with
in
it.
the summer, Ashley had a friend come down, and I had jambalaya
Oh, I remember.
out
She
on the
chastised
patio.
you for
Yeah,
that.
well, they both did. And I'm like,
I'm gonna eat what I want to eat.
yeah, I was in the mood for jambalaya when I saw it on the menu. I don't care if it's 98 degrees outside. I'm eating hot and spicy jambalaya.
So if I want to make chili today, I'm gonna make chili. Okay.
Right?
I can't eat.
All right, let's do the 6-pack.
You know what I get to do?
Drink.
I get
Can
to
opener
drink.
tropical ales from Zipline.
By the way, did you like that TikTok I sent of Shane after like his 3rd Zipline beer?
Right? Yep.
How's your little friend, Shane?
That's my dad. Leave him alone.
Wow.
Question number 1.
Weston. I hadn't seen that name before.
Weston.
Weston on YouTube. I got a feeling Damon is going to join Rule's staff. If he were to join the staff, what would his job title be?
Where would he get that feeling from?
Probably just because you guys are so close.
What?
Hey, be honest. Micah graduates. Caleb's graduated. Like, he's doing his thing on Sundays. And you are like, I kind of want to, like, maybe get into coaching at Nebraska. Would you?
So
if
that would
Rule
be
asked?
that would be 4 years.
Right. Like, if Rule asked, would you do it? Like, if the right job was there. So now answer the question with the right job if that was presented to you.
I don't know if I would want to be an on the field guy.
Would you be like director of player personnel?
I would like
Or
to
player
do-
development
I
or
would,
something like
I
that?
would do something in the player.
Would you be
development.
CJ?
Something in the player development or a liaison, like high school. Something about talent acquisition.
Okay.
I would do that. Or maybe
Like a glorified scout
or just like chop it up with the young guys, like a liaison type.
I could see you being a player development coach.
Yeah, that'd be all right. But Micah would,
I'll lock that in. Player development.
I can't work.
I can't do anything.
I mean, I don't know if I'm chomping at the bit for 70-hour work weeks, but if most people are out of the house, I'm cool. You know what I mean?
I'm just curious if you'd ever leave West Side to go coach at Nebraska, if it were asked. If the right job were there.
Probably.
Player development. Coach Rule. I know he listens.
Probably.
He's taking notes. He's in it for the long term.
This isn't anything it hasn't
Hasn't
come.
already come up.
We're good. Next question. That's right.
You know what I
Thank
can't,
you, Weston.
You know what I can't do?
What?
Drink?
I can't stop drinking.
Question number 2.
Michael in Lincoln, if you were a Nebraska football player today, what would be your favorite sport in the new facility?
The favorite spot?
I'm going to like those hydro tank things.
I would take the nap pod.
I'm not a. Are you gonna watch me? Are you gonna watch me sleep?
Well, no, it's like watching you sleep. They'll walk by and be like, "Oh, whose feet are dangling there? Oh, those are DBs. All right."
I go to.
So I know where he's at.
I don't know.
You seem like a car wash guy.
They hit the
pool's pretty sick too.
Yeah, or the wet sauna.
That's a nice.
That's
one.
yeah. That's 100% where I'd be. I'm in the wet sauna.
I think I'm staying on the nap pod though.
Yeah,
No one's bothering me. I can close off life.
Sleep is grossly overrated.
Not when you got as much as I did last night, which was 3 hours. I felt like DB.
Ooh,
you know what I watched last night? The Guardian while I was doing some prep, and
with
I got
Costner.
Yeah, with
I've never seen it.
Kutcher and Costner. Yeah, great
Somebody.
movie.
He's a coast. What is it?
United States Coast Guard.
Okay.
I'm a United States Coast Guard. I'm here to help you.
I've never seen it.
All right.
I hear that's really a great movie.
It is a good film.
I mean, I'd probably pass on it, but I don't know. What do I know though? I mean,
Question number 3.
I hear the movie's awesome, but I'm never gonna watch it. That's exactly what he just said.
Thomas in Omaha. So my family in Colorado always gives me the ish for calling the sellout streak legitimate.
I'm assuming he means like cuss word ish. Always gives me ish.
Maybe he just gives him the heebie-jeebies.
Maybe. All right, Shane, keep reading.
I need some ammunition at Thanksgiving this year after hearing Nebraska will continue the streak through 2023. Thoughts?
Ask him how many games Colorado won last year.
The streak talk doesn't really bother me.
But it bothers people outside is what he's saying.
I get it.
So what advice would you give him to tell his family to basically F off?
I kind of would think that. I definitely wouldn't say it, but
I'll be like, what do you guys have going for you?
I'd be like, you do you. You know what I mean? Like,
oh, you take the high road?
Yeah, like if my mom was like, man, Damon, blah, 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 the sellout streak, and I'd be like, Mom, get over it. Like, I don't want to hear it. I wouldn't say it like that, but my delivery would be one that it would not be inviting to talk about.
See, I would try to find some type of snarky response. Poke at them. Where does it hurt the most?
I probably would.
What's their team? Is their team Colorado? If so, ask them about last season. Ask them about their projection this season of 3 wins. Like, what's your over-under? 2.5?
Dude, they're going to win more than 3 games.
3.5?
Aren't they?
I don't know.
You don't think?
I said, I don't know.
They'll win more than 3.5 or 3.
Maybe.
It's because we think they won't. They will.
But I'm more trusting Vegas here.
If they do win 3, I'm going to party.
That dude did look like you. I need to send my buddies that TikTok. They can't see the little dude dance. He was smoked, though.
All right, Shane.
Question number 4.
If Messi wins an MLS Cup with Miami in his first year, does that guarantee him the number 1 soccer player of all time?
What a dramatic pause,
dude. Can he read?
It was loud in my headphones. I had to adjust volumes there. I was still doing the Macarena.
Oh, the
headphones.
Who? The Macarena.
Like MOCK?
That is Shane.
I can't even remember the question.
Yes, I think that guarantees him as number 1 soccer player of all time.
I think he is pretty much, but yeah.
I mean, especially because he got the World Cup win this past year.
That would absolutely solidify it.
He's won almost everywhere.
No disrespect to my man Pele.
Pele will definitely be 2.
Can you not see?
Question number
Stand up, man.
5.
I can't see, and I can't read, but I can drink. And Billy in Omaha, knowing what we know now, why hasn't John Lynch been fired for the trade he made to get Trey Lance?
Dude, he's not even 2.
I know. He's 3. They gave up 3 first-round picks and a 3rd.
I know.
To get Trey Lance, and he's the 3rd stringer on that team.
And somehow that
Mr. Irrelevant is your starter.
Somehow that roster is still pretty spectacular.
And I think that's why he has his job.
I think Lynch is cool. That roster's legit.
It's a lot about what we talked about at the beginning of the show with Alberts and Rule. Like, that's the relationship between Lynch and Shanahan.
Yeah, it's like he's
so when they get along with one another.
But is Trey Lance that bad?
I'm not going to be in the camp of, they didn't give him like any resources to be better. Like, because I think he's had every resource.
I mean, he must be really, really awful in practice.
I don't know. Shane, you got one more real fast?
Would you rather have $1,000 a day or $100 every time you kiss someone?
Why can't you read like that all the time?
$1,000 a day or $100
every time you kiss someone? I'll take the kiss.
Oh, give me the 1,000.
But I'd get past 1,000.
You're not.
Dude, I kiss my dog probably 10 times a day.
Yeah, well, we're different.
I know you kiss Big. I know you kiss that guy.
Hey, give me the 1,000.
You get way past that
I take
number
the shirt
your
thing.
dog.
I don't want it dependent on my mood.
All right. We're talking to Jason Cole when we come back.
We will be back in 4 minutes. We will be back in 3 minutes. We will be back in 2 minutes. We will be back in 1 minute. We will be back in 30 seconds. Coffee and Cream with Rogers and Benning on Hurrdat Sports Radio.
All right, welcome back as we wind this thing down on a Thursday. Happy to be back with you, Coffee and Cream on ESPN 590. We are live on Twitter, live on YouTube, the Hurrdat Sports YouTube page, and we're live from the H&H Chevrolet stage at Hurrdat Sports Bar and Grill. Damon Benning, Andrew Rogers, Jason Cole joining us now to talk a little NFL. It's been eating at DB because he hasn't been able to talk NFL lately, and now here's your chance. Good morning, Jason.
Good morning. What's going on, guys?
Jason, I'm just trying to parse. So apparently, and you'd know, right? John Lynch has had such goodwill with acquiring such a complete roster that we're just going to overlook the deal that he made to get Trey Lance. Like, is that kind of how this game works?
No, I mean, he's going to get blamed for it. I mean, it's not just Lynch. That was Kyle Shanahan more than Lynch, okay? And they've made mistakes before. You know, there was the Trubisky draft where they dropped back and took Solomon Thomas and the linebacker who worked his way out of the league fairly quickly. That was a bad draft too. I mean, they've had their moments, but they have a Super Bowl ready roster.
If that it's amazing. That roster is arguably it's top 3 most complete in the league.
Yeah, and they should get credit as much as you want to rip them. And look, it's fair to rip them for Trey Lance. They picked Brock Purdy, who's pretty good. so you know, like, I get it, but I hear these things from people, and I also say, okay, he wasn't perfect. Let me tell you a little story. Al Davis is in the Hall of Fame. Al Davis is one of the greatest football men in the history of sports, right? Mm-hmm. You know, any sport, but particularly football. let me tell you the 3 quarterbacks he took with first-round picks. Okay, let me tell you. One of them is Mark Wilson out of BYU. He's the best of the 3. He's the best of the 3 by far.
Shane remembers that.
Jason, our producer is.
Yeah, let me go to number 2.
All right, let me hear it.
Number 2, the second best one, was Todd Marinovich.
Right there.
No, number 3, Jamarcus Russell.
Yeah.
Yes.
So that's all right. So it's okay to rip John Lynch. Everybody screws up quarterback.
Yeah.
Everybody's bad at it. I mean, the only 2 men I know in the history of this league who you could say have impeccable records at picking quarterbacks are Ernie Accorsi, who took Eli Manning and took John Elway with the number 1 overall pick, right? When he was in Baltimore. He declared it. He's the one who stood at the stage and said, we're taking John Elway. He never played for Ernie Accorsi, but he took him, right? And Andy Reid. Andy Reid takes quarterbacks and maxes out every single one of them, whether he takes them in the first round, like Donovan McNabb, picks them up as, free agents off the street like Michael Vick, or takes a guy like A.J. Feely toward the end of the draft. And all of those guys get to the maximum amount of potential they've ever had playing for Andy Reid. It is an amazing history. And, of course, includes Patrick Mahomes now.
On the other hand, Al Davis, he passed on Terry Bradshaw.
Jason, I was just going to say, you're going to get our producer fired up, man. He's a total Raiders fan.
And he passed on Tom Brady.
Go ahead, Ed.
Well,
everybody passed on Brady.
Yeah, everybody did.
Yeah,
even the Rams right before him.
And they did it multiple times. That's the beauty of Tom Brady. But yeah, I just look at Al Davis and I go, he forgot more football than 99.9% of us. Before he died, he forgot more about football than most of us have ever learned. He was terrible at picking quarterbacks. Couldn't do it.
Jason, as we kind of go throughout the news, not only is Trey Lance in the news, but Jonathan Taylor has been circling for a little while now. And not a question just based on where he's going to end up, but just kind of like from league perspective as a whole, are we eventually going to see, or at least start seeing, Sunday talents at like the high school level or even somewhere around that age group avoid playing running back in their youth years for how they're being treated in the NFL right now?
Yeah. There's going to be kids who say, I want to play a lot. And it used to be that if you wanted to play a lot, you played running back because you touched the ball the most.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of them are going to sit there and go, that's not worth it. These guys keep having problems getting paid. I want to, part of this is I want to play ball, and you better be passionate about it, but you better love what you do. And if you love to play running back, you should do it. But part of this is going to be, no, man, I want to also play for a long time and make some money. And so I want to last. I don't want to just be put through a grinder. Or they may say, I'm going to wait, I'm going to wait and not play as much running back early on. I'll switch there later in career. And B, I'm leaving college absolutely right away. As soon as my eligibility is up, I'm out because I've got to get that contract as soon as possible, and I got to get motored toward free agency in any way I possibly can. I'm going to save all of those carries or bullets, however you want to put it. I'm going to save all of those for my pro career. Now you have to get a pro career, which is not an easy thing, but yeah, I think you'll get guys thinking that way.
Jason, more of a regression candidate, and maybe the Burrow situation clouds the answer, but assuming Burrow comes back healthy at some point, right? Week 3, week 4, week 5, whenever. Who's more of a likely regression candidate, the Bills or the Bengals?
Well, you always worry about the Bengals because they're the Bengals. Right. Like, there's a reason that they're this bad for forever, right? They screw it up all the time. And as I have said, the hardest thing to overcome in sports is a bad owner. Well, they're poorly managed. Okay, now they happen to have collected a lot of talent right now, and most importantly, Burrow is that talent. And Burrow, I think, is as consistent as it gets. The flip side is when you talk about Buffalo, I think their talent, they're more loaded than Cincinnati. It's close, but they're more loaded. The problem you have for them is, which Josh Allen do you get? The one who is, nuke lelouch and throwing the ball all over the yard and, throwing to the other team a lot, which he started to do again last year. And on top of that, hasn't learned that running a lot is a bad idea for a quarterback. It's just, I think he has 4 seasons with 100 carries. It might be 5. Like, there's only 2 other quarterbacks in the history of the league who have that kind of carry rate. One of them is Lamar Jackson, who's been fighting injuries the last 2 years. The other one is Cam Newton, who I think had 9 seasons with 100 carries. And guess what happened to Cam Newton? He had a really short career.
Yeah, broke down.
Compared to what most quarterbacks do, and compared to a man who, Cam Newton's a man.
He's a big dude. Yeah, he's a big dude.
He's a big dude, right? He should have been one of those guys who played for 15 years standing in the pocket and guys just bounce off of him, right? Like, that just should have happened. Instead, he was trying to bounce off of them, and it just doesn't work. Yeah. So Josh Allen learned to, A, don't throw the ball up for grabs, and B, stop running around as much as you do, because if you continue to do this, you have a chance to, as much as you make that team better, you have a chance to destroy that team because you could be sitting on the sideline.
We're talking to Jason Cole at Jason Cole 62 on Twitter. Jason, if you're Chris Jones, first of all, good for you to be able to feel comfortable enough to pass on those game checks for about 8 weeks. So that second, how much of a hit do the Super Bowl champs take this year if he doesn't play the first 8 games?
Do you guys know what that defense looks like when?
Oh, yeah, well aware. And I don't know if Reed's just bullish because he has Mahomes, but they turn average pretty quick.
Oh my God, average on defense? They're average on defense right now.
Yeah,
like they're a very and that's that's because they spend their money on the offensive side of the ball, and they have a couple of guys, but. I mean, this is 2 really bad things. Number one, he's not going to be there. Number 2, I don't know that Chris Jones, I've seen him. This is not like a man who's built like Adonis. He's big and strong and fast, and he's, super talented. But I don't know what kind of shape he's going to be in if he misses half the season. How effective is he going to be when he comes back? So I remember this story about Andy Reid. And I'm sort of tempted to text him this and get in his ear, but I don't want to tick him off right now.
Oh, I thought you were going to tell us what you were going to text.
So I've only got a minute here, Jason, but I got to ask if you're penciling in wins, is it death taxes and McCarthy getting another double-digit win in Dallas? Because I kind of like them, even though everybody's fawning over Philadelphia again in that roster.
Well, Philadelphia is a better team, and I like their quarterback better. I mean, look, Dallas is going to be fine, and Dak's going to be okay. He's just, he's going to screw it up in critical situations. He's going to throw some interceptions on third downs or miss passes on third downs when they get into high leverage situations, like he did. It's just every playoff game they've ever been in. But I think McCarthy's a good, solid coach. They have a good roster. They should be in the playoff hunt. They're not as good as Philadelphia. And let me finish the Andy Reid thing. And that is, after the whole TO thing, he said, "Man, we should have just paid him. Just pay the guy."
Interesting.
Jason Cole, we appreciate the time this morning.
You never miss, Jason. Never miss.
I try. I try to hit him out.
Have a great day, man.
Later.
That's Jason Cole. Jason Cole.
He can be really, really tough.
Man.
But he's good, man.
Now I'm sitting here and I'm like, is this Michael Bruntz in the NFL? Or
Shane, next time we get him, we're getting him for a bigger block because he likes to expound. And I got like 7 more things I
asked him, 2 things?
Unless you get me another NFL guy tomorrow, Shane.
We're pretty jammed heavy, or we're pretty jam-packed, I should say.
Oh, we start with our coach's corner. Let's go.
We'll talk to Mike Huffman, right?
Yeah.
That's it for Coffee and Cream today. We'll see you then.